welcome to the first offline edition of Actual Play that may or may not be released. Actual Play Bluecoats.
You may or may not be watching this right now.
Which you may or may not see.
It's the quantum episode.
Yeah. There have been other episodes that may or may not have existed, I have to say.
That is true. That is true.
His name is now Schrodinger, and you can't change my mind.
I think you know all of us, and our names are here. So yeah, we're gonna play Bluecoats of the Watch, which is the newest installation of Blades in the Dark in development by Mr. Harper up there. I'm gonna be GMing this game. Should be fun times, and we're gonna do some crime. Is that what we're gonna do?
We're gonna take a bite out of crime. I believe.
We probably will end up doing some crime, if I'm being honest. But
I feel like I was thinking, like, should we try and like standardize what like the expected level of like cops being on the take is? And I think now that'll just come out and play. Like, we'll just figure out like what's the expected level of crime done in the station, because it's not all and it's not none. It's some.
It's some. The entanglements will probably address that to some degree, but
do we have those? Do we have entanglements?
I don't. Well, I have a few, but I don't have like a full rollable table right now. So
it's fine. We'll just use those.
I don't
like,
think,
oh shit, they're the worst ones.
Yeah, we can just pick the ones. Yeah, we probably won't need it tonight, but.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make some characters and then maybe we'll play. We have some brand new playbooks.
Yes, I had a very good tech support chat with Jacob Ossinghouse, who made these cool Roll20 sheets and provided the like all the raw CSS, HTML, and .json files, so you can go in and change pretty much everything on the sheet. So just with my little bit of knowledge of CSS and HTML today, I went in and changed the action names and did all this stuff. It was surprisingly easy, and all thanks to his hard work. So
nice. Well, I think that my understanding is that the actual infrastructure is pretty involved, but the renaming of things is pretty pretty straightforward.
If all you're doing is changing the words, essentially, there's a document that is just in its alphabetical order. It's every word, and then like the class name, and then the display name, and so you can go in and change it. And then if you want to, I did this a little bit here and there. You can go into the style sheet and stuff and change some of the way things are presented. If you want to tweak.
Yeah. I
stuff.
saw the mandate. I could tell you had done a little bit of rejiggering. So.
Yeah, there's some more work that needs to be done there, and Jacob has very kindly offered to, once this is set up, to like do a real version, so that when you're playing Blades, you can switch over to the Bluecoats sheets when you want to. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, eventually this will all be at your fingertips.
Yeah, this is just such an awesome resource, though. I mean, we could have just sat here with our printed out sheets and played, and it'd be fine. But the ability to do this with very little prep and have cool Roll20 sheets out of nothing is just awesome. Really awesome.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, let's make some characters. I assume that the character creation process works very similar to the way it does in Blades, but tell me if there's steps that are changed.
It's similar, but the changes or the differences should be apparent as we do it. One thing to say is we have the unit that we have chosen is the only one that currently exists. And it is not, there's a thing in Bluecoats, which I want to say up front. When you decide to play the police in Duskwall, the sort of default way that they manifest is as a scoundrel crew of bravos.
Right.
So if you want to play that and you want to be the criminal cops on the take who are just a gang of thugs, then you play Bravos, say you have blue coat uniforms on, and then you'll be able to get some of the stuff from the blue coat playbooks and things as veteran advances, or mix that stuff into your scoundrelly stuff. We have chosen not to do that, so by definition we're playing characters that are trying to get something done as cops, in service to something or other. It depends on the person probably, but we're not just there to be thugs.
Right. And we're in service of the institutions, at least in part, because the other flip side of that is that if you are legit if you're members of the Blue Coats who are legit trying to affect change, you're actually working against the native institutions of Dustfall, and then you're playing vigilantes. So that's also an option.
That's the other end of that spectrum.
The other end of that spectrum, yeah. So we're playing somewhere in the middle. We're not necessarily the most.
We're the status quo. We're team status quo, right?
Team status quo. Sort
of. The hook that we've chosen for our unit is called the Mandate, the Imperial Mandate. So a situation has developed in the Empire, in this case in Dustfall, that the powers that be do not want to continue. Something is messing with their shit in some way or another, and they've gotten an inspector and issued this Imperial Mandate to fix that thing by some means. Inspectors have broad leeway on how to address problems. Send that person to the source of the problem. That inspector gets local Blue Coats, recruits the people that they want. They have, again, very free reign over that aspect of it. And then their team, their little task force, does what they need to do to address the issue. So in our case, we're in the Coleridge district of Dustfall, and there is a looming unionization situation going on among the labor force, which
that manifests as work stoppages. I mean, it's
yes.
The union is, in theory, until the union takes place, until it takes any hold, it's just an idea. But when it stops production, when it actually involves people not just bowing to the whims of the foreman, then it's a real problem.
Mm-hmm. So the people that the money flows towards
aren't getting it.
They're not getting as much,
or they're not getting as much. Yeah,
it is slightly less at this point, and that's enough to cause a crisis.
Right.
And it could get a lot worse. So we are that mandate. We are that task force, which entails at least probably Blue Coats and an inspector. You could play with an NPC inspector or NPC Blue Coats or something like that if you wanted to get weird with it. But we've decided to do the somewhat traditional approach, I think, which is the one outsider, a foreigner inspector from outside of our city, and then two Blue Coats who work the district. This is their local precinct where they work in Coleridge.
Yeah. So the industry is absolutely a norm for them, and the people that work in that industry are not far from them. They are very potentially their family. There's I feel like with Blue Coats, there's a very especially with Blue Coats in Coleridge, which is a starting setting, there's a sort of dogs in the vineyard feel where these are possibly criminals, possibly civilians, possibly both that you're interacting with, but they're definitely family and friends and people that you live next to as well. Not for the inspector, not for the person who is sort of outside of all this, but for the Blue Coats, it's your home.
And that's a big part of how they get stuff done as well, right? That they rely on the locals to
give them the information without it being a constant display of force, without it being a constant fight.
Yeah.
So I think it's this double-edged sword, right? It's useful resources, but you're also beholden to the people in a way that doesn't have anything to do with your official duties.
Yep.
So cool. Yeah. So, I know what I was doing now. I got distracted by your description, John. I was going to pull up the character creation sheet so we would start going through this thing. So I think before we get into the specifics of it, we talked in advance about some ideas for what types of characters we'd like to play. And Naja, what are you still interested in playing the sort of Akros you've been here all my life?
Yeah, I am.
Tell us about that character concept.
I'm playing Bluecoat, and my character is Coleridge, born and raised, not braised. That's weird. Born and raised.
that's for people who get
That's a very different story.
who do you wrong. Coleridge braised. That's it's not pleasant.
I think her family is very low class in Coleridge. They probably have some criminal interests themselves. And she initially wanted to join the Bluecoats to distance herself from that and try to, like, she wanted to be the vigilante Bluecoat, but got ground down by the system, and now she's in it for her paycheck. And this inspector is starting some fire over some bullshit, and she's very exasperated with it already, and it hasn't started.
So how long has she been a Bluecoat?
How long would it take? I think she's still bitter about like losing her like sense of ethics. So not terribly long, maybe like 3-4 years.
Okay.
So she's relatively young, and is in that like rebellious, I thought I was going to change the world, but now I'm a asshole nihilist phase.
So that died quick. Her soul just poof, like.
I mean, that a 9 to 5 will do that to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds about right.
Yeah. Right. Now, I think your volume may be a tiny bit low. Do you mind?
Yeah, let me see if I can figure that out.
A little bit.
Audio options. That is not what I wanted.
Well, in the meantime,
yes.
Yeah.
Shall I?
Yeah.
Talk about my concept.
What do you?
So I want to be an inspector. Specifically, I want to be from Eruvia because that seems exciting and fun.
Yeah.
It's also one of the only places outside of Duskfall that has any like official in the book content.
Right, it's been established.
There's some stuff for me to pull on, but I like the idea of the political quagmire kind of catching my character.
Yeah.
And so I want them to be connected to important people, and for those important people to have ideas about what my inspector is going to be actually doing and for whom.
Yeah. And to one, to make sure that like we're kind of on the same page about that, but also two, so like everybody watching kind of has a sense of it. My take on Eruvia, and like this isn't definitive, my take on Eruvia is that they hold sort of a privileged position within the Empire, that they are technically part of the Empire, but there's a lot of things that they do on their own terms. And that does not sit well with the rest of the Empire. That does not sit well with the Emperor. The Emperor would rather have Eruvia in the same, and not just the Emperor. I sort of mean like sort of all the powers that be would rather have Eruvia be in the same state of sort of utter compliance, and Eruvia would very much like to not only maintain their autonomy but grow it to the point of the ability to secede if they wanted to. Secede, annex, secede. I think I got the right.
Secede. Yeah.
Yep.
And so there's a tension between Eruvia and Dustfall that we don't necessarily see on the street level. We don't necessarily see amongst blades, but on a political level, which an inspector would very much be part of, is that they are ostensibly subjects of the empire, but they have a lot of motivation to not really serve the empire well, or to serve in ways that better their own interests.
And also, like, they've been around a long time too. They're not like a recent conquest in the way that like Scoveland is, or whatever,
Right.
or like a recent conflict. They're like a long established kind of like partner in this whole imperial endeavor, which struck me as being very interesting. That like, while my character is foreign, like people mostly are going to kind of know about Aruvia in that way. It's not like exotic in that same way. People are like, oh yeah, if you're from that other place.
Everyone else either got subjugated or just needed the emperor to survive the cataclysm, and Aruvia was like, okay, well, we'll be peers, and they were like, yeah, but we're the top peer though.
You're like, okay, whatever.
Like, yeah, okay, fine.
Right. So I think who's the top peer probably really depends on the mind of depends on the viewer, depends on the person with the opinion. And notably within the setting, there's a very specific reason for that. The Udu, the well, there's a giant spirit well in the middle of Uduasha that sucks in any sort of spectral energy nearby. And so Uduasha, at the very least, is fairly untroubled by ghosts. They don't need the Emperor's protection. They don't need lightning barriers. In fact, they only have a lightning barrier around like the tiny little area that is like the Dustfall Embassy, right? With one little bored as hell spirit warden. So they do have, it's not just a political issue. They have sort of geographic and supernatural autonomy as well. Or they could.
Yeah. Generally speaking, what's bad for the Empire is good for Aruvia and vice versa. And this inspector is specifically given this mandate, like, this is bad for the Empire. You need to fix this. Like, that's automatically just interesting, right? Like,
exactly. Right.
Is it that? Oh no.
Right. Well, and cue the fact that what people do in Coleridge is lots and lots of kinds of industry. I'm sure there's textile and steel work and all kinds of things, but the biggest thing they do is service the Leviathan hunter fleets, which is the cornerstone of the Empire. So yeah.
Yep. If those ships don't get back out to sea, everyone dies. except the people that live in Uduasha.
Who, to their credit, probably don't want a whole several countries worth of refugees banging on their doors. But that's a long way away problem. So
so I'm not here to like sabotage anything, but my priorities my priorities are going to be multiple and competing is what I'm interested in. And then also like there are all these big institutional pressures, and then you have your own idea as well.
Well, on top of all this stuff we're saying and making these little like jokes, but like people who are inspectors are known around the Empire as these people of perfect integrity, just like the most beyond reproach honorable people you can imagine. So that layers on top of all of that has this like extra component.
That whole mess seems interesting to me, so I'm interested in playing in that.
I'm excited about that.
I'm as well,
especially against the burned out nihilistic
right
young cop.
The person who just relates on such a different level. I'm jazzed about it as well. And how about you, John? What are you thinking about playing?
I am playing Scovelander, native Scovelander from Lockport, named Attic Brogan, who goes by Talk Brogan is what people call him. And I chose his last name very specifically because that family is involved in shit in Coleridge right now. And I'm guessing that there's an extended Brogan clan that is from the Old Country and from Duskwall. And like, I'm kind of seeing three branches because Duskwall was originally a Scoveland colony, like hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
Ages ago, yeah.
And so I think there's like the native Brogans, like the people who were like, we were here before the Empire, like those people, or they claim that ancestry anyway. It could be bullshit. Then there's like the preeminent current Brogan clan that are like the local people, the local family. And then there's people like me that are like Cousin Brogan from Skovlin, who has some either distant or very immediate connection, you know, blood-wise. Like it could be all over the place.
Yeah.
But-
So because there's a notable NPC, Bell Brogan,
Mhm.
who is sort of at the crux of this. Do you have an idea about your relationship, your actual like blood relationship, and also perhaps your social relationship?
I feel like
with Bell?
I'm older than Bell. An uncle-y type figure. I don't know if it's literally an uncle, but something like that.
Sure.
Enough so that like she would recognize who I am. It wouldn't be just like, okay, yeah, you're some Skullvender person, whatever.
Right.
Like some closer connection. And the other element that I was thinking of was I befriended an Imperial during the Unity War. I was a cop in Lockport, not a cop, like a sentry, I worked at like a watch post, and like in case a ship crashed, you know, coming into port, or if someone got lost, a kid got lost and you had to help find them, or that kind of like civil patrol type job. And during the war, I kind of kept doing that job and didn't super take sides exactly, but befriended an Imperial soldier who went back to Duskwall and became a bluecoat. And so I was thinking that like I needed to get out of Lockport because I got the black lung real bad, and the acid rain and toxicity there is like
it's a bad place to be.
Super bad. So I came to the city, and basically my friend, we should probably name this person, they vouched for me to get me on the force. And I feel like there's like a Skovlander thing among the Bluecoats, kind of like the Irish New York cop thing, where there's this kind of like family thing that happens. Like, oh, don't worry about him. Like he's from back home. He's all right. That kind of thing kind of has a little weight. But then that guy died. That guy's out of the picture. Something happened. I don't know if he was killed or what. We'll figure that out.
Right.
But,
so the one person who vouched for you is gone.
Yeah.
Stuck.
And so I wasn't being like hardcore ostracized yet, I don't think, but I just kind of didn't have the gang didn't know if they could trust me enough to bring me into the gang side of things in the Bluecoats. The vigilante side of things is not, I'm not, you know, they're not going to recruit me. So I feel like I was just kind of floating in the precinct. And when the inspector showed up, it was easy for the captain to be like, oh yeah, Brogan, you're with the inspector.
This guy is going begging, like,
yeah,
take him. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Skull Colin was your friend.
Okay.
Let's give him a name. I mean, if that.
Yeah. That's good.
I feel like Moreland.
Okay.
Moreland Skull Colin. And I think Skull Colin had. I mean, my feeling from what you're saying is that he had sort of accomplished what you are hoping to, which is he had sort of ingratiated himself to the point where like his word was good enough when he's like, oh yeah, talk is good. People accepted that more or less, as long as he was there to vouch for you.
Right. I think he was like an old timer. He had earned his stripes during the war. No, the gang guys weren't going to mess with him. The precinct respected him. He wasn't particularly like fire and brimstone about anything.
Yeah,
he fit in. The local citizens liked him. He walked his beat. You know, just that very low key like career coat thing.
I think he had some. Injuries from the war that both sort of slowed him down, but also afforded him some respect. It was a visual badge of honor. That,
he had a cane. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he walked with a limp, and it was just a reminder of his service that he didn't necessarily always use explicitly. Like he wasn't always like tapping it down, you know, making a big deal of it, but it was a regular reminder of what he had done for the Empire.
Yeah.
In just this sort of, yeah, he's with us kind of way. Not that it afforded him high status or anything else, but just it assured people that they knew where he stood.
Yep.
So I want to circle back a little bit, Naja, to your native Akrosi. There's another character in Coleridge that I'm curious as to whether anybody has connections with, and that's Master Slain. Slain is if you don't know him, you certainly know of him, because Slain is sort of House Dunville's bulldog. He is one of the head foremen in the area, and he if he doesn't report directly to Dunville, he certainly acts like he does. You would be surprised if he actually had the ear of a noble, but he touts around Coleridge like a king. He's known to be particularly cruel, particularly sadistic, like cruel for no reason, cruel for the reason of it instilling fear in anyone who might think of opposing him. There's a lot of disfigured people in Coleridge that have horrible, grievous injuries on account of him, because he knows that killing people is bad. So he's kind of everywhere up until that point. So do you think, being around for a long time, that you have a relationship with Slain? I think somebody you care to know?
I think almost certainly my family has had a run-in with him. That might have been the problem. Like the person, probably my dad, but maybe both of my parents were working in one of Slane's factories, probably, and crossed him some kind of way. And now they not only do they not work there, they can no longer work in an above board way.
You've been like blacklisted at all the factories or whatever.
A lot of the trends that you've seen are that people work until they're ground down in these factories, and then they usually resort to a life of begging or crime, and are usually very quickly apprehended and put in iron hook and put onto a labor force. Like that's a real common cycle that you see over and over and over again. So has your family sort of skirted that so far? Like, have they avoided that criminalization and permanent labor force?
I think they're in with the Bravo's Bluecoats unit that we are not playing. I think that's why I wanted to be a vigilante when I first started, because my family was so like indebted to these assholes, and I was like, fuck you, I'm going to become a policeman, I'm going to become a good policeman. And then I was like, this sucks.
Okay, so your family is also Bluecoats, but they're Bluecoats that are in Slane's pocket or in various people's pockets.
No, they're not Bluecoats. They're just in the pocket.
Like they're paying
protection money to the bad Bluecoats, quote unquote bad Bluecoats,
right? So they can do their criminal stuff. They pay off the Bluecoats, and they probably make drugs.
Cool.
I think that's what they do, and they've avoided iron hook by giving a cut to the Bluecoats.
Yeah.
But I thought I was above it. I'm not. I am.
From your experience, Slain acts like he owns the Bluecoats. Like he doesn't like come in making crazy demands all the time. He doesn't like ask you to do a lot of stuff, because he often has his own leg breakers, but he will flaunt what he's doing in front of them. And there's enough people that absolutely turn the other up, just look away and ignore it, that so far it seems like he's not wrong. Of at least 2 different assassination attempts on him where people have tried to people have like spent some time figuring out where he's going to be, like what his beats, like what his pattern is, where he's going to go. And somebody just got pushed so far that they're like, I'm going to run out and do it. And, they ran out into the street with a pistol loaded, and just every time something has gone horribly, horribly wrong, and he's made it out fine. So he's got sort of assuredness about him. Also, people think he's the fucking devil, like literally. So,
I mean, it could literally be true in this setting.
Could be.
Yeah, I think I know of him. I have a deep resentment and hatred of him.
Cool.
But I've lost the sort of foolhardy spark that would have made me go after him. Because I've turned away from the vigilante blue coat style, and now I'm just kind of avoiding is kind of like my main jam, and being on the inspector team is explicitly not letting me do that.
This is the first moment where we see your character who's been like coasting under, like keeping it under the line, staying cool, now has to face some of the stuff directly. I dig it. Cool. I think we're good to do like character creation stuff. I mean, obviously, John, you've already picked a name, and I think you probably got some ideas. But let's do the actual deal. Let's do the actual thing.
Yeah, lay the procedure on me, Sean.
Yeah. All right. So our first procedure is you pick a playbook. Luckily,
oh my God, we're winning.
That's really easy. Well, there's two. There's Blue Coat and there's Inspector. But
I'm what you call a super whisper. It's like a double whisper.
A stage whisper.
Yeah.
I've heard of those.
Yeah.
Is a double whisper extra quiet?
Yeah, I don't know. Is it just a normal voice?
It's a normal voice.
It's not very impressive.
We call that talking.
I'm a talker.
Speaks in a double whisper.
I am a blue coat.
Yeah, you're a blue.
That's my playbook.
You're playing blue coat. Cool.
Yeah.
And we know that Andrew, you're playing Inspector.
Not the Inspector. Yep.
Cool. The next step is choose a heritage, which we also have already described. But detail your choice with a note about your family life. So something that you were, a little bit about who you are from where you come from. And
I have Scovelander, and my family background is Lockport laborers. That's cool. Lockport is where the Leviathan hunter ships drop off the demon blood to be processed.
Which is why it's so toxic and fucked up. It
is super toxic, and my family grew up working there and surviving on the rocky crap coast of Lockport.
Hey, I have a question, John. Both the Empire and Aruvia have Leviathan hunters. Is all of the ectoplasm, is all the Leviathan blood refined there, or are there other places?
By treaty, yes, Sean, 100% of it must be dropped off at Lockport, and no one would do otherwise.
That's what I thought.
Or they would be in breach of a treaty.
That's what I thought.
If
all that happens there.
If someone were to do that, it would not be.
I mean, it's not exactly as though it's a desirable thing to process Leviathan blood. It's pretty gross.
No, there's like some. I mean, as we saw in our Bloodletters campaign, some unrefined Leviathan blood makes it back to the city, and various things happen to it at that point. The Aruvian Leviathan hunters use Duskfall as their primary port, like the others, but they're kind of separate usually. So, who's checking up on them and all that? I'm sure there's a system in place, but
sure there is.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So Andrew, you're from Aruvia. What are you thinking is your background? I see that you've chosen House Anixis.
Yep.
One of the noble houses.
House Anixis.
Yeah, why don't you tell us about House Anixis?
According to this book I have, it says that they control espionage and diplomacy, essentially. And that in Uduasha, they have lots of connections to the criminal underworld.
Nice.
Mhm.
Now,
Wow.
it could be said, I don't know if it would be said, but it could be said that House Anixis would be the safest house, the safest noble house to bring an inspector in from, because they have no Leviathan fleets. Anixis is not one of the two houses that have Leviathan fleets, which inherently puts you at odds with the Empire. Like the existence of your own Leviathan fleet means you're hunting for the same Leviathans in the same places that the Empire is, and if you catch them, they don't. So there's a more overt tension, I think.
It's the equivalent to like, we also have nuclear missiles, and they're like, no, we don't like that.
Right. Exactly. So there's a certain perspective that one might have. I don't know that this is universally shared or even commonly shared, that you would be the most dispassionate with regards to your allegiance to Arovia.
Well, we certainly foster that belief, because that is a useful fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. How, in our version of Blades in the Dark here, Andrew, how overt is the Anixis reputation? Is it like, oh, they're the ambassadors and diplomats, or is it like everyone goes,
Okay, so here's the thing where it's like, oh, they do spying as well as diplomacy. I'm like, what's the difference?
Well,
Right? Like, you
yes.
send a diplomat, they're basically like an official snitch for your country.
Residentura. Yeah.
So in that way, like, cynical people would be like, yeah, they're the same thing. Of course, that's what they're doing. But that, I think there is that veneer of, yeah, we do diplomacy, and we are like the face of.
But it sounds like to me that it's sort of demystified. It's not like, ooh, they're super secret spies. It's, of course they're spies. Every diplomat's a spy, right? Like it's an assumption that
those who would be cynical about politics certainly would say so.
Right. So
which is most people.
Most people you interact with at your level. Most people that are at the high levels are also savvy and also expecting.
They'll be wary of that stuff.
Yeah, that they would, just as they expect you to be wary of them, right? Like
yeah. Like, we're all playing the game.
Yeah.
And so I think, in terms of my character's relationship to all of that, I think they have spent a lot of time away from home, or have been away from home for a very long time. Mm-hmm. Like, they were educated in the imperial capital, and have, to a certain extent, like, westernized in that way. Like, they dress and act and carry themselves in a very, like, appropriate to the Empire kind of way. They don't present as being like, they don't lean into their difference. They don't have an accent. They're super, like, straight up about most stuff.
Cool.
If they do have an accent, it's like when people learn like British English and then come to America.
I was gonna say, I mean, it sounds to me like it's these sort of educated, abroad,
People would notice your Imperial City accent, but not an Aruvian accent.
And not an Aruvian.
Exactly. So they have that kind of take on being an outsider,
which would come across extremely, like, well bred and upper crust and fancy. And
they're very posh.
I was going to say pretentious, but
yeah, I mean, it seems to me, it seems to me of people that appreciate you would give you a higher sort of status in their eyes than someone who would sounded. Yeah.
There are Duskwall nobility that affect that accent to try to have that.
Yeah, like, I have it legitimately. And I think probably, like, I come from a family of diplomats. Like, I may have even been born abroad. But I happen to have become an inspector, probably pushed by my family to do so.
So it's very reasonable that you've spent most of your life in Akaros somewhere.
Like, kind of wandering around, and, like, I've been to Uduasha a bunch, but just as much time, if not more, is spent away from there.
I like it. So as your
Zion,
heritage, you think you're family of diplomats?
Yeah.
All right. And Janice, what's your heritage?
Yeah, I'm Akarosi, Coleridge born. and I noted down that my family now produces drugs.
Nice.
But I do my best to just overtly not see them doing that.
That sounds legit. I'm kind of feeling like they, like the drugs that they. I'm not. It doesn't seem to me from your description that they're making like one like real high end thing. Like they're not making like Black Lotus or.
No, it's
but
not.
Then it's more like
end.
Dream Smoke or like whatever the sort of like weed.
Yeah, it's like it's not. They're not like high end criminals in any sense. They're definitely like just doing it to scrape by.
Mm-hmm.
And what profit they would make is being eaten up by the Bluecoats in protection money.
Yeah.
So, but that's why I went to go get a 9-to-5 job, because I thought it'd be better. And in some ways it is. In some ways it is.
I feel you. Doing what you can. Mm-hmm. All right. So the next step is your background, and your background is what it's not on these sheets, but it's typically, but it's from labor, military, academic, noble. It's what your station in life was. So John, I think you've already got something in there.
Yeah, I put it down as military. It was kind of like, what movie is that in? It might be from Band of Brothers that I'm thinking of this, but there's a scene where there's a in World War II in Germany, there's like a road patrol, a road checkpoint that the Allies it's like an Allied checkpoint after the surrender, but the person running it is a local, like a municipal police officer, German police officer, but he's like deputized by the Allied forces or whatever to like be the road guard. And I think it was that type of thing. Like I was a shore watchman in Lockport, and then when the Empire came and took the port as the beachhead at the beginning of the war, like I wasn't there with my rifle holding them off. I was like, I'm the shore watchman, and they were like, "Yep, keep on being the shore watchman."
Yep, just keep on doing that.
Now you're our shore watchman.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So the military thing is like, technically I was in the Imperial military. I probably have a badge thing that they gave me back then that I have in a trunk somewhere. And I'm sure there was all that stuff around, like, are you being a traitor to your people? Were you doing the right thing by not like endangering your family? Blah, all of those layers to all of that.
Yeah. And all of those depend on the who you're talking to and the perspective you have.
Mm-hmm. And I think my read on it, and this is just like my character's thing, I'm not saying this is like a fact of the setting or anything, but I think he sees it as the Duskfall Skovlanders pretty much are Imperials, and he thinks of them as Imperials. Mm-hmm. And the Skovlanders back in the country that fought and died and had their homes destroyed by the Unity War are like the real Skovlanders. But I think because of all the refugees and because of the unrest in the city now, there's like Duskfall Skovlanders that are starting to be like, yeah, our people. And they're like starting to kind of...
They're reawakening that heritage.
Sort of, yeah. Like, I think that's happened. Or that's the way he thinks of the situation. Sure. That may not be accurate.
Well, there's certainly a lot of Skovlanders who work in Coleridge that don't want anything to be upset. They want to be able to go to work and get stuff done. And from his perspective, they would seem very indoctrinated into the system. And they are indoctrinated into the system. I mean, there's they don't living their life.
They don't speak Skovlish. They don't have accents. They don't care about any of that stuff.
Right. They may not always, in fact, I mean, because we've never had a huge distinction of like stock, of like racial stock. Like they may not even always be identifiable to you. Like it's not, names change over. I mean, they've been here for hundreds of years. People marry into different families. It's not necessarily always going to be obvious if someone is a Skovlander or not.
No,
if their family's been here forever.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Cool. How about our inspector? We know your background's noble.
Background's gonna be noble.
Yeah.
Clearly, but I'm trying to think of what's the real connection here? Like, because this is more about like you're saying, like your station or whatever. I think like I like this idea that my character was kind of groomed for this.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I like that.
Family as a political pawn, but I'm wondering the extent of that grooming. Like, what is the
first
how
thing
much has been invested in my character? Basically.
Yeah, the first thought that I had when you said you may have been born in the Imperial City is like military brats, where like you're raised on a military base. But in this case, it's not military; it's diplomatic. But it's the same kind of idea that like you were around this. Just grew up around you just grew up around diplomacy and spying. It was like part of your life from the get-go because you were with your parents doing the work. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Also, I can imagine it makes you feel a little bit out of place when you're actually in Udawasha, like that there's a part where you clearly that's where your home is, but you didn't get raised there.
Yeah, raised in the culture, but as like a little pocket of it somewhere else, not properly in it.
Right. So. There's like the Norwegians in Minnesota who do like Norwegians, like Minnesota Norwegian stuff.
It's not. I don't think it's quite to the extent of how America does it, where it's like, hey, yo, I'm Italian. I grew up in New York, but I'm Italian. It's not that whole thing of like you're this weird American version of it. It was just like, it's more in the way of like immigrant families where your parents don't speak the local language and you're kind of the middle person. It's more in that spirit of like, you're in this little pocket.
Yeah.
And within that, like within the embassy, for example.
Yeah. And that pocket is like
Hadrathi and
wealth and privilege pocket too. It's like very high wealth and power. And
I'm sure you had very fancy play dates with other young Akarosi.
So my question is, are you
embassy, that kind of thing? Yeah.
Are you the child are you like the firstborn? This is their best shot. Like getting someone in the inspector service is like something Anixis really wanted, and you were the tip of that spear, or was it like,
this is a way to get rid of this?
Get rid of all your other siblings are going into the diplomatic corps, and like you weren't like high enough status in your family, so they were like, well, here's a thing you can do that's honorable that you can,
Yeah. I've got another question for you, which may not even be relevant, but are both of your parents Eruvian?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want my loyalties to be split in that way along family lines. I kind of want family to be a monolithic thing, and then
cool,
because I already have duty as the other.
Sure. That sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. So ignore that question. Back to what John was.
But it's a fair question. And so like I feel like tip of the spear is more interesting, right? That there's like a lot riding on this makes it feel more loaded and like more pregnant with disaster. Whereas if they're just like, oh yeah, that's just so and so, like they're just having their little phase where they're an inspector and they'll come back to roost later.
Yeah. Well, it also means that, like you were saying earlier, like the powers that be that you have those connections to they're going to have their own plans on how to use you.
Yeah, they have ideas about what I'm supposed to be doing for them.
Yeah.
I'm like, aren't I just supposed to be doing my job? What's up?
Yeah. So, which says something about our Blades in the Dark world, which is that the role of an inspector is we've already established that it's a very distinguished one, but it's a very high status one as well. Like if they sent their best, they sent their child prodigy who was raised and trained, and this is what they wanted you to do, that
I think it shows how like resolute of an institution the inspector kind of class has been, that it was like difficult for them to infiltrate it.
Yeah.
And that even in getting someone in, that my character has been kind of turned to it and might have a sense of like this idea of justice and the importance of their duty has kind of sunk in, but then they still have this leftover kind of aftertaste of loyalty to the cause.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I don't want to like establish, the 5 tenets or something like that, but I do imagine that there was some sort of indoctrination that was very strongly along the lines of like, we don't serve the nobles. We don't serve the squabbling these people. We serve the empire, because without the empire, civilization ends. I think that I feel like there would be like this very weighty kind of like, your job is to protect, the next cataclysm.
To protect the institution of civilization.
Yeah,
to like keep that.
There's a phrase from the Oath which we're thinking about maybe calling the collection the combined vigilantes and bluecoats, and that is, "I will be a flame without shadow." This idea that there's a light that drives away darkness and doesn't cast shadows, and there's an extra irony there because of Udawasha and how the well and the sacred flame is like the reason why the city survives. And I don't know how that ties in exactly, but
some cool lore that we have.
There's some kind of lore happening there.
Yeah, I dig it.
Right. Yeah, and like you can't learn all those rules and all of these like skills and not have it kind of shape who you are. I feel like, so if you've been doing that long enough,
sure,
you just want to excel at your job and do the thing, and that thing is to maintain these status quos, or these like order, the sense of order and stability. So there we go. I'm a plant within the inspectors by a wealthy Eruvian spy network.
Nice. That worked at least a generation to make this happen.
Wow. You were narking on the narcs. That's deep.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. How about Janice? Is Janice the pronunciation of?
Yes, Janice. Okay. I put underworld and then in parentheses ex-labor.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely like, I think Janice has this nostalgia about the time when her parents still worked in the factory and how good everything was.
Right.
Before Slane fucked everything up, and now they, sell Dream Smoke Leaf or whatever. So she would self-identify as coming from a labor family, but honestly, her family is underworld more than anything else now, and she just mentally distances herself from that.
I mean, I think the line
of how it was before, basically, right? Like,
she was like, everything was great, and her parents are like, actually, everything really sucked then too. You were just a baby.
You just were too you were too young.
Just a dumb baby.
Dumb baby. But you know what? The funny thing is, you can be told that all you want, and it doesn't change your memories, right? Like your parents can be like, no, it was really hard. We worked 16-hour days every single day just to put food on the table. It doesn't matter. Your memories are still what they are.
And nostalgia is very powerful.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the citizenry of Coleridge necessarily even sees a huge distinction either. Like if your parents like used to work in the factories and now maybe have and now are supplying Dream Smoke to people so that they can like get a good night's sleep after like 16 hours of work, like I could see them still very much welcomed in all the same circles that they were before. Like I don't think that there's a huge taboo necessarily in Coleridge about what your parents are doing. Like they're offering a service, and it's like my friend who grows weed. I don't know. I don't think it doesn't seem to me like it would be stricken as like, they're pariahs of society.
Yeah, I don't think they are. I think Janice just has like a level of shame. Like maybe like her dad is, everybody's weed man, and that's not super great.
Right.
You're like, I am a cop.
Like, God damn it, Dad.
Right.
And her parents pay money to the Bluecoats in a very shady way. Slane probably resents them for not going into Ironhook. Maybe like there's some like tension there. They would probably duck him if he's like in any shape or form in the area.
Presumably your dad is the same age as this Slane guy, right? Like they were peers at some point or something. Like they knew each other. They worked in the same space.
Yeah, Slane is why Janice's parents got fired. They were probably deliberately injured such that they couldn't work anymore because Slane is an asshole like that. And so there's like some history and trauma there. I don't know how much Slane cares about individuals, right? Like individual laborers, but he would probably like recognize his own work in them.
I think from your perspective, he's obsessed with individuals. I think from your perspective, he's extremely vindictive and personal. I don't think that's necessarily untrue either, but at least in your experience, his general disdain for pretty much everyone is amplified when there's anyone that he feels hasn't sort of bowed down to him. And he likes to be kind of a matchmaker and put people where he wants them and make them a puppet master rather, and put people where he wants them.
So so actually there's probably like Slane is probably aware of the Schrodinger family's relationship to the corrupted Bluecoats.
Yeah.
And probably he gets some kind of kickback from the protection money. Like there's probably a whole network of horseshit going on there.
I think he's connected to it. I think he works with those very same Bravos. And if he wanted to, I think from Janice's perspective, if he took it personally enough and if he was upset enough, he could absolutely end that relationship. Like he could absolutely put your parents out on the street like that if he had the will to do it. Like he could just, convince those Bravos that they had better things to do than to accept your bribes. So yeah.
So it's a very precarious situation that Janice has thus far navigated by not excelling, not fucking up, just trying to fly under the radar with everything. And now, like I said earlier, this inspector mission is about to fuck up her whole shit.
Right. Because you've been keeping your head down. And and if you get into his business, so let's just be real clear about it. If you get into his business and you piss him off, he absolutely has the ability to strike back at your family. Like that's unquestioned is the current in our current state, right? This could change, but that's great because he's going to be one of the very first people you talk to.
Yeah. Janice wants nothing to do with any of this union bullshit. And yet here we are. Powers that be have decided.
Awesome. That is how you make a character, everybody. Listen to that.
Yep.
I'm about to have my shit fucked up. That's how we're starting. That's how you
do it. The thing I really don't want to do, that's our starting situation. Perfect.
That's my favorite thing too.
All right. Cool. So now you're going to assign 4 action dots. John, the actions for Bluecoats and Inspectors is they have 1 fewer action in each ability.
They do.
They can get a 4th action as a move, but is their total action dot pool the same? Is it still 3 to start?
It's 4. It is the same. Cool.
Awesome.
Okay.
So
and we do 1 based on our heritage, 1 based on our background, and then 2 are free.
Yep.
That is exactly.
So the actions, we can go through them real quick. If you hover over them, it will give you a little fly out like description of what they are. But
what?
I know.
What is a sorcery?
This sheet is just it's amazing. So we have conviction, the attribute conviction, and the actions in that are control, question, and testify. Control is your ability to intimidate, command, suppress. It's that cop thing where you're like, okay, everybody, okay, settle down. Like I'm in charge here. That thing where you don't have to come in swinging all the time. You can like throw your authority around, control people with your voice.
Yeah.
Suppress
them. It's also
them.
your ability to crack someone when they're in the witness, when you're trying to get them to give you information you could
use the control angle there if you wanted to intimidate them. Like you could disappear in Iron Hook, that kind of thing.
Right.
The second in controlled substances in this district carries a heavy fine.
That's right.
That kind of thing, right?
The second action question is interviewing someone, but also sweating and pressuring someone. So questioning can be an interview, like, what did you see? Or like, tell us where the boss is. So if it's just straight up intimidation, control is a little bit of a better angle. If it's questioning in that sense of like, getting information out of people and that sort of thing. Question is good, but like a lot of Blades actions, the players can come at it.
Sure.
You know, there's not like.
But it sounds like control is a lot more about controlling the actions that someone's going to take, either to have them stop acting or to take a particular action. And question is a lot more about getting this information out of them. Okay.
A little bit like command and sway in that way, sort of. They're a little different, obviously. But the third is testify, which is being convincing, whether you're lying or not. Like giving a convincing report, being clear, incriminating somebody. And this counts like on the witness stand, or also like just talking to your commander, like we need the strike team. You need to send the guys with us. This is really dangerous. You can testify to like convince someone of the truth.
And that's just to throw this out there, that particular instance that John was talking about, there was a tension amongst the Bluecoats, which is exactly how much military might, the strength of arms that the Bluecoat should wield. So the picture of the Bluecoat on a little waiting screen was somebody with a baton, right? And that's like a very standard. Yeah, I'm assuming every Bluecoat is proficient with cracking a skull as need be. However, when people start, and that's totally adequate when someone is unarmed, or maybe if they have a small blade, but when people start making improvised weapons, throwing bric-a-brac, making explosives, getting armed themselves, there's a real there's an arms race there, and that's another element of tension going on in within the Bluecoats is the degree to which the Bluecoats themselves should be armed, and the degree to which the use of force that they should use. Anyway, that's an aside.
Exactly.
It's another little piece of this setting.
Being able to testify well is one way to access those things, by actually like giving a clear report about this is the situation and this is what needs to happen. Then there's force. Force is the second attribute, and its actions are assault, which is fighting and shooting, putting someone in handcuffs. Pursue is the second one, chasing, running and jumping, following somebody. Secure, which is defending a place, repelling people who are assaulting a place, locking somewhere down so no one gets out, creating a perimeter, and transporting prisoner that isn't going to slip away in the middle of the transport, that kind of stuff. This is a type of job that Bluecoats are called on to do sometimes. Like if the riot's been brewing, they might go secure the factory. Like, don't let anyone in there to destroy our precious machinery. Like that's a job you might do, and that action lets you be good at maintaining that.
That the Bluecoat actions seem a little bit more abstract than the Blades actions. Whereas, like when a blade, you're going to skirmish. That means I'm going to fight you. Like I'm skirmishing you with my fists or my sword or my whatever. Versus secure seems more like it's an array of actions that all have this sort of same goal, the sort of same agenda. Same agenda. But you could see multiple different things still being called secure under the auspices of achieving that particular type of goal.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that's the intent or not, but that's what I'm
kinda sort of.
By merit of us only having 9 instead of 12 too, the space that they need to cover is going to be a little bit different. I mean, we can fill it in later with extra stuff, but
in general, the Bluecoats don't have as much sort of fictional ground that they can cover in terms of what they do. It's narrower, but then within that narrower space, each action kind of has a little more fuzzy border to it. That's how I see it. Then there's savvy, the last attribute, and those actions are exploit, which is deceiving somebody, victimizing someone in various ways, like talking to someone and getting them to incriminate themselves. You can do that with question to like find out stuff they know, but you can also exploit your relationship with someone to like make them think that you're trustworthy and then bust them because they admitted to the thing. Falsifying paperwork or evidence would be exploit. Exploiting relationships and also your access to things. Planting evidence on someone, for instance. Observe is the second one. This is watching, studying, analyzing, doing a stakeout, looking over a scene, watching for trouble, that kind of stuff.
This also be like reading a person's intent.
Yeah, definitely reading a person. And relate, the last one, which is consort, essentially from Scoundrels, but also making a deal, putting someone at ease. And the deal with relate, similar to the way consort works with Scoundrels, it's your ability to relate to your people. So we as Bluecoats will use relate to people on the street that we know, other Bluecoats, working class people, that sort of stuff. But Andrew's Inspector will use relate to hobnob with the city's elite.
It is laughable to imagine them trying to relate to the working class with their like posh accent and their wealthy. Like they have no clue. Right?
Just like with Scoundrels, it's the idea, like with a consort, you consort with people of your background typically, or your heritage, and this is the same kind of thing. You connect to one of those.
Scoundrels spend a lot of time trying to build out the group of people they can consort with, right? Like other folks that they know.
Yes, and their lists of contacts and stuff are often like all over the map. And Bluecoats, as we'll see, are a little bit more stratified in their connections to people. So those are the 9 actions. It's possible to get more, but we'll get into that later on.
So, for example, for me, my heritage as a sign-on to a family of diplomats, I'm taking 1 dot in control. For my noble background as a plant, I'm taking exploit. I'm able to be duplicitous, and I have multiple kind of jobs that I'm juggling.
Yeah.
So, and then I got my 2 free dots that I don't know what I'm going to do with quite yet.
If you don't, I'll go next.
Go for it.
Yeah.
So I started with control, question, and pursue, I believe, were the ones I started with.
Control, assault, and pursue is what you start with.
Control, assault, and pursue. Okay.
Yeah.
So I started with that. I took a dot in relate for my accuracy heritage. Being from Coleridge, I know lots of people, and I know who to talk to and who to not fucking talk to. For my background in this sort of underworld labor mix, I took a dot in observe because I'm very used to, like, I've got a grasp on how shit goes down, both the supertext and the subtext of the way the moving parts of Coleridge interact. And then I took for my 2 free dots, I took assault. No, I didn't. I took question. And I took pursue because I mean, Janice did spend some time trying to be the best cop she could be, and she still has like a few legitimate cop skills.
You can actually run people down.
You can run people down.
Yeah. I also know Coleridge really well. So wherever bolt hole they try to squirrel into.
And there's so many. There's a part of Coleridge that so there's the ironworks where everybody works. And then there's in the southern part of Coleridge, there's this really compacted residential area. And I'm forgetting the name of it.
Brixton.
Brixton, thank you. Yeah. And Brixton is the worst place to chase people down because it is nothing but tiny little bolt holes and alleys and planks between buildings that then collapse after the kids run across them. And
I'm pretty sure Janice is from Brixton.
So, I think she is.
Nice. Yeah. That's good.
It's like it's a matter of somebody being like, we need to unlock this gate and get through, and like Janice vaulted over it like 5 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Or knew a way around it, right? Like knew like that there was a door to somebody's house and then a back door, and and I'm sure her family are currently in Brixton. That would be
indeed they are.
That would make tons of sense. So
nice.
Yeah, cool. And John, where did you want to put your dots?
So I took for my Shore Watchman, I took a dot in Observe. I figured I was doing a fair amount of that. And also in Secure, I think my time in Lockport was partially like stopping looters and that kind of stuff. And then for my free dots, I took another point in Assault. I think Talk is he's sort of a thick guy. He's like a bear type. And he just is naturally good at sort of throwing his weight around and being physical. And then I took a dot in Control because his demeanor is a bit affable and he definitely likes to talk and likes to diffuse situations and sort of be like magnanimous as his general demeanor. So 2 dots in Control to try to give him a chance of trying to do that a little better.
It's interesting that sort of seemingly friendly approach isn't Relate, right?
No,
it isn't him
it's not
actually connecting with people. It's him appearing friendly and
it's not like
It's
super
like,
friendly per se. It's just like okay, I'll just take it easy.
Right.
It's that kind of thing. Like
a little bit disarming and a little bit like that confidence of just like, no, there's not a problem here. Like, everyone just shut up.
Yeah, grab someone by the scruff of their neck and be like, come on, you don't want to be doing that now.
Right.
But 0 Relate because he has that combination of like being an outsider from the city, not being from a city even. I mean, Lockport is like this little fortress type island basically, and people could kind of see him coming from a mile away a little bit in that sense that he's not like, hey everybody, I'm cool. Like, he seems like this gruff kind of foreign bear. So he's not good at that. Not yet anyway.
I took my free dots in Question and Testify. So I'm Control 1, Question 2, Testify 1, Exploit 1, Observe 2. I have nothing under Force at all. I don't mess with that.
Perfect.
Nice.
I mean, that's why you have 2 blue coats, right? That's
yeah, I'm pretty
job.
sure that's their job, and that nothing bad is ever going to happen to me that's violent.
Yeah. There are other blue coats in the city. There's only one inspector. We're replaceable. So
very much so. I don't think there's any illusion about that. You're the 2 blue coats that were grabbed for the job. Yeah.
And we can also, as a crew, we can grab a cohort of other NPC blue coats as well, right?
We can currently at the beginning, you have 1 spot. The mandate has 1 spot for a cohort. So you can have an expert or a gang. If you want beyond 1, then you'll have to get it in the fiction. There's no guarantee for more.
All right. Well, you each choose 1 special ability.
Right.
Yeah. I am having a hard time choosing, actually.
So there is exactly one thing, Sean, that will determine my choice. Which is, am I bound to the demon Ixis?
Oh, I mean, that's a great question to ask. I don't. Let me go to page 235 in the book. For some reason, that one sticks to me. When you have bound yourself by arcane ritual to a demon, you indulge its dark desire. You receive permission to command it, and it may not refuse you. When the demon's desire is not well satisfied, it receives permission to work in secret towards your destruction to be free of its binding. You may take the following special abilities as a veteran advance, and you can take either Demonic Attendant, in which the demon has to come to you when you summon it, or Demonic Artifact, in which case you have bound the demon or some part of the demon within a physical object.
So the reason I bring this up is because my understanding from reading the Uduasha stuff is that it's something that the family does with like a number of people. There's like an inner circle of the Ixis family, family who are associated with the demon. And so it's not so much like this demon is my servant and mine alone. It's
Right.
like my family has this broader compound.
Yeah, and my read on it is that the demon princes are so vast and so powerful that you never bind the demon, you bind an aspect of them. You're carrying around a little piece of them, but it is not the entirety of this prince that may or may not actually exist from most people's perspective, that may or may not just be a sort of natural phenomenon like uranium. But
I have a preference to vocalize.
Yeah, well,
and it's just this is just my preference. It's always hard to say these kind of things because they can
because it carries undue weight.
It can feel like it has a lot of weight, but this is just my preference, and I will not be bummed if we don't do this. But all the other Blades games I've played have gone pretty heavy into the supernatural in some way or another, and the idea of not doing that interests me as a thing to try. But it really is just like it's a fairly mild preference. Having you bound to the demon is really cool, and I will also enjoy that.
I mean, and this is the thing. I don't want to make the stuff that we're doing is still going to be about all the mundane stuff of like labor disputes and all of that.
Yeah,
it's mostly just of like
the difference as I see it is that right now what you're playing is what I think is really cool is you're playing the division between your loyalty to the empire and to the job and to the duty, and your loyalty to your family, and this complete lack of connection with the common people. Like I think those are like the three sort of pillars of your character as I understand them
in terms of like how I will interface with the situation that we're playing.
Yeah Having the demon to me adds a third pillar. I don't at all ascribe the demon's desires with the desires of House of Nixus. Like I don't think that they were in opposition. Like they're not necessarily totally different, but
it's not like a complete overlap. Because I don't know. Yeah, it wasn't clear to me whether or not like House of Nixus and the demon in Ixis are like totally in lockstep with one another.
So I see it like there's a reason why they named themselves after it, and that was to appease it, right? Like I see that there is a effort to capture and catalyze this unknowable, unearthly force and hope they get it right. But it's not at all like I choose, like that. It's not at all like it's a mutual or
we're not like it's
synchronous relationship,
whatever. Yeah. Okay.
So
cool.
that's my take, and then
I'm not going to take a tune with 1 dot, and that's fine.
It would be fun. I am totally on board.
Maybe later when I piss off my family, they're like, no, we got to get you in line here. Drink this Kool-Aid. Yeah.
I am a little worried that it would water down your cool dichotomy there. I think.
Yeah. No, that's
and it allows there to be another element of Eruvia that you know about but aren't part of. So there's even
there's that too.
I wanted this a little.
That's true. Yeah.
I wanted this little tiny piece where you're like, you are still kind of like a foreigner, even to Eruvia. Like you don't really fit in either place completely. And I don't know if that sounds fun to you, but that.
So what you're telling me is that Elstara of Rathi is bound to the demon Nexus or something? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying
she gets to be cool and I don't. Is that what you're saying? Fine.
Maybe if you prove your worth to the organization, things will be different.
Yeah, we'll put this weird like brain worm once you're fully indoctrinated. That's kind of how it feels to me. But anyways, great. No, that's cool. I agree with that thought, Sean. I think it's a nice extra being on the outside of every single group in that way.
Right. Because you can navigate between them like nobody else, but you're still not 100% part of any one of them.
So for the people at home, that is a thing. Both Bluecoats and Inspectors have a special ability they can get, which says you get a scoundrel action and a dot in that action. So if you want to tune or tinker or those things that fall outside the Bluecoat sphere,
right?
You can add them to your character if you want.
And there's some obviously better and worse cases, right?
Like
skirmish, you probably would just take assault. You don't
really need skirmish. You probably don't need consort. That kind of thing. But there are others that you might want to get.
But maybe you're on the SWAT team and you have rec.
Right, exactly. Yeah. you might want rec.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you're the Q and you want tinker.
I don't know. Nadja, do you have something in mind?
For special ability?
Mm-hmm.
I am gonna take Come Along Quietly.
Mm-hmm.
Which allows me to push myself to do one of the following: make a violent or unreasonable person listen to you for a moment, cause a mob to hesitate and move aside for a few moments. I think because Janice is native to Brixton in particular, she understands how to talk to people. And I also think it's going to be a huge source of stress for her, pushing herself to kind of placate this situation that is inevitably going to boil over no matter what she does. But I think that tension between her roots and her job is a good source of stress for her. And
I like that.
I feel like we have a kind of unique opportunity with this game in Coleridge to say this game is about Coleridge. We do not care about what your character would look like in any other district, in any other place. Like the fact that you have this ability that's not just because it's some innate ability of you, but it's tied to your connections and your roots is something we can say and still make the ability just as powerful. In fact, maybe even more so because it's contextualized than just be like, well, I have this sort of, innate power to just calm people down. I love that it's tied to they know you, right? Everyone knows who you are.
Yeah.
And it stresses you out.
It stresses me the fuck out.
That's so good. Yeah, that's a really good way to think about that. I'm torn. I want Natural Born Police because obviously.
Right. That's why it's the first one on the list, John. Usually, if you can't make up your mind.
But because of the thing I said before, I think Bulldog suits my character really well. It says when you brandish your authority, it's especially intimidating. When you control a subject under threat of the law, you take +1d to control.
That sounds like something your character would do.
It's really like doubling down on my thing. Like control is one of my best things. It would give me 3 dice with it. If I want to play the diffusing character, then that would help me do that. But because my weaknesses are in the area of like being fooled, being given the slip, someone escaping me. Like Natural Born Police would give me a little bit of
give you a little insulation.
Insulation, to be like, okay, well, this one time I can at least like say no. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to see through your lie or whatever.
Yeah. If you can't decide,
right? If you can't decide,
I would have for you is, are you Natural Born Police?
No. Well, yeah, kinda.
So let's think about to when you were.
I kind of am.
Your original job, right? And you were watching the port, right? Like, were you good at it? Was that like something you were capable of, or was it just like a role you had and you were like, yeah, I'll keep doing this thing, right?
No, I was definitely good at it.
So yeah, if this is something that like maps really well to your character's personality and his inclinations and his like interest, like does he take away in the job? Does he?
And that would give me like a potential in the fiction for like not just being the throwaway cop in the precinct that like maybe the other bluecoats might notice that and be like, oh, actually this guy is.
Every now and then you pull something out of your hat where they're like, how did he catch this guy?
He's not just some rube from the country.
Yeah.
I could see something where like they've got like they pull something over and like you're the one who's maybe spots a fake or like points out an inconsistency that like they should have caught, but maybe someone else would have caught.
Right. It's the kind of thing that my current like actions don't let me do super well, but that would give me kind of a.
And I don't know how you feel about that sort of being used to tease you, but I can also totally see the thing of like, hey, Talk, smell this. Is it real? Or like this kind of
right.
Oh, he did this trick one time, so now we're going to keep like pestering him to do the same kind of thing, and it's sort of a fraternity bully kind of thing, but it's also a sign of respect at the same time. It's I don't know.
Yeah.
How you feel about that, but
no, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, no, I like that. This is making sense to me. Natural Born Police will be my specialty.
Yeah, I feel like it rounds out your character nicely to have that.
Yeah.
All right.
So if you're not going to take a dot and a tune,
should I just do forensics where I'm like actually good at investigating crimes?
So this is a special ability that I put in the game because this game is very specifically not a game about solving mysteries.
Yeah.
It's a game about playing cops in a particular situation, dealing with a problem. And so forensics has the potential to be this rabbit hole of like, ooh, can we figure out what happened? And yada, yada, yada. So what I'm trying to do is I was like, okay, I should make a special ability that just solves that thing. Like when you can just know stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
It's like your
There's
little
no-
piece of gumshoe just like
Yeah.
inserted into the game.
It is
like,
basically a gumshoe move.
yeah, and
Yeah.
we see the inspector like doing all the detective work, and the light bulb goes off in their head, and that's when we pick up the narration again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
And to be clear, whenever you're doing that without the move, you can always gather information, ask questions based on the action that you're using to gather information. And if it's a fortune roll, like if there's not huge pressure, if there isn't obvious consequences for getting it wrong, the worst thing I do is give you bad information, right? Like it's never no information. It's, you roll a 1 to 3 and the information is poor. It's not non-existent. Obviously, this is it. A sort of enhanced version of that, but like you don't need it. But I do like that you compartmentalized it. You shoved it into one thing. I'm like, yep, cool. That's what you want to do. There it is.
Yeah, it is that idea of like skipping past it with a kind of button you can push and just be like, I do this now. But based on your character background, I think like forensics is cool, and it'd be cool if you had it.
But the ones that are more in line for me are like sanctioned or higher powers. Or, sorry, not higher powers. Sorry, experienced.
Oh yeah.
When you leverage the influence of an affiliate to get something done, take +1 die and +2 heat.
Yeah.
So good at using my contacts or good at passing through red tape.
Yeah, I thought of Beyond Reproach.
It does fit you also.
I really thought like your natural stature and your position and the way you carry yourself, your demeanor, would inherently be impressive and inherently cause people to sort of like pause from like, who's this person in a moment. Not that I want to push you one way or the other, but that jumped out to me.
Cool. That one seems good. And yeah, that's like a way to signpost like I actually have integrity.
Yeah.
So what can you read that, Andrew, so people know what it is?
So it says you can put yourself to do both of the following: impress onlookers with your integrity and authority as an agent of the Imperium, and cause them to hesitate and reconsider their actions. So as long as, John, you don't feel like I'm stepping on your toes, or Naja as well, in terms of the like dealing with crowds and assuaging people and all that kind of stuff.
I like that all three of us have that capability in our character to like try to control a situation without violence.
I mean, to be fair, that's what cops are supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish they would do that more. Yeah.
Well.
Okay.
But
well,
it gives, if that is true, and if you take this, sorry, Andrew, you were going to say
I've
something?
changed my mind. I'm going with a good person to know. So when you would take -1 status with a faction, you may instead take stress equal to its tier +1 to smooth it over.
Nice.
That is diplomatic AF.
I'm a political entity.
That is true. You have pull. You have a lot of pull.
Yeah. So I like it. That's big. That's huge.
And this is
usually on the crew level, and you're taking it down to the personal level.
I'm taking it on personally. Yeah.
But there's a really good, in my mind, there's a really good justification for why Talk and Janice would be assigned to you, which is it is well known the results that you get through violence in Coleridge, and that is short-term success and long-term unrest, right? Like it's very, and that long-term unrest has generally been like kept down. It's fine. Every time it pops up, you just beat it back down again, and it's fine. And it's not now. That long-term unrest has finally hit a boiling point where just going in and breaking legs, or just going in and throwing people in jail for the night, or just going in and scaring people off didn't work. And so they're looking for people with slightly cooler heads to assign to you. So that it makes sense to me that would be a good reason to. The other alternative is, and there's definitely going to be a faction vying for this, is no, we just need to double down. We just need to hit them harder, right? Like they're striking back because we've given them too much leeway. And you're trying to talk to them, and you're like making them feel like they have a say in this. And so I think but I imagine a good rationale for assigning you guys.
Well, speaking of which, does that mean that John and Nadja's characters are hand-picked?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Are we moving on to our mandate?
Well, I think we should double check. You all need a vice. Let me just double.
Yes.
Oh yeah, let's follow the procedure. Follow the procedure,
everybody. Okay.
We are
you've chosen your special ability. Now you must choose a close friend and a rival. So everybody
here we go.
In your affiliates or street contacts list are people you know, and they're generally speaking your friends and people who like having you in their company. They can stand to be around you. One of them, however, is a close friend. Could be a family, lover, someone you've gone through thick and thin with. And one is a rival, someone who is an enemy, you had a bad breakup with, is working at odds against you. So.
Unlike those sad scoundrels, we Bluecoats have 6 contacts to start.
What?
Because we're just that cool.
Because you're that fancy.
However, they all pale in comparison to the inspectors. Andrew, do you want to tell us who your affiliates are?
My choices are between the Lord Governor, the Master Warden, the Commander of the Watch, the Chief Magistrate, and Elstara of Rathi, the Eruvian ambassador in Duskwall.
That's not too shabby. Whisper, OP.
I mean, yeah, you could throw
but one of those powerful people has to be your enemy.
Yes.
Or rival.
And this is where I'm like, is the Eruvian ambassador my friend or my enemy? They're definitely one or the other.
Right. Or are they indifferent?
I don't think they could possibly be indifferent given how we've set me up.
They no matter what have very specific expectations of you. Whether they're your best friend or your rival, like I don't think friendship will make you in any way escape the pressures that they'll put on you. If that is helpful, right? Like I don't think you could take 3 upticks with Elstara Vrathi and it would not stop her from her agendas and her duties. Not that it would flavor the interaction with you.
She would want to see you succeed and ascend to a higher status. Like she's your friend.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
Okay.
Is she holding the leash in your parents' stead?
Yeah, because they're in the Imperial capital.
Yep.
So she's definitely the person on site. But I think I'm going to take it one step further and I will be in bed with the devil. So we're doing an up arrow and I am sleeping with Elstara Vrathi, the Eruvian ambassador.
Okay.
It's like that. Okay. Yeah. Let's do it.
How known is this? Are you openly engaged in this relationship with her, or is this completely clandestine?
Is it more fun for it to be clandestine? I think so.
I feel like it would be very hard to justify it not being clandestine. I mean, we could decide that was normal and that was okay, but
like I'm probably not supposed to get down with anyone until I retire or something.
Yeah, I don't think inspectors have to be celibate per se, but the idea that you'd be compromised by having a personal relationship with somebody
seems... A foreign agent.
Yeah, like you're meant to keep that shit
right,
like below decks, essentially. And no one's ever meant to know about it.
Whether you're both Eruvian or not doesn't mean shit. You work for the Empire. She works for Eruvia, right? Like it's you're that's very clear and overt. Everybody knows that. Like your direct reports are very different places, you know.
So does your mom know?
I think if Elstara is sleeping with someone in secret, no one knows unless she wants them to.
Yeah.
I mean, she might.
She might.
I don't know.
She might. It might. That might be part of the.
That can come up later.
Might be part of the program.
All right.
And then is my enemy the Commander of the Watch or the Chief Magistrate?
Yeah.
What are some names on these people?
So the Lord Governor, technically, the Lord Governor appoints you as the agent of the Imperium.
Yeah.
Appoints you to your position here in Duskwall. So that is another option for an enemy. If they know that or if they suspect that you're an Eruvian plant, like they could be like, okay, I have to assign you because that's what I was told to do, but I don't like it. And
Yeah, we could go straight to the Lord Governor, but I kind of
Commander of the Watch is good too.
Direct, yeah, like because that Commander of the Watch, if I understand this correctly, that's like the person in charge of the Bluecoats,
the police commissioner. Yeah.
Yep. And that person is named, and I thought I knew where it was.
I think they're named. Yeah.
And then the chief magistrate would be like the district attorney or whatever, or the state's attorney.
Yeah. The magistrates are like all the same level, and then there's one that like presides over them.
Yeah. And they're both judges and advocates, and
they make summary judgments. So advocates can come in and present cases, but there's no juries, and the magistrates just give summary judgments. And it's a little bit like French court, the way I see it. The book doesn't really say this, but a magistrate can just like order searches and seizures without any paperwork or anything. They can have people detained. They can whatever.
Right. So they have extensive executive authority.
Mm-hmm.
So the chief commissioner of the City Watch is Commander Cleland.
There he is.
How do you spell Cleland?
Clelland.
Cool. He doesn't like me.
Yeah.
Why would he?
Why would he?
You are obviously a problem.
You are. Yeah. I mean, so from the Bluecoats' perspective, inspectors by their nature are a lack of the city's trust in their ability. Like inspectors are inherently a questioning of their loyalty to the empire, of their efficiency, of everything, right? Like why do they need you at all?
Why do we need oversight? Shouldn't we just have complete authority?
We're making a lot of money here. Everyone be cool.
They can't get their job done with you getting in the way and slowing everything down and mixing things up. Things were just fine before you were around. And
insert jurisdiction arguments.
Yeah, exactly. Insert right. So just your presence is an affront. The fact that you're a Ruvian, I don't know. I'm not sure if Cullen cares about that or not, but the fact that you seem posh and educated and dignified and distant compared to him, I'm sure that gets in his
rubs him the wrong way.
Yeah. I think it's far more of that than anything else. It's your demeanor.
You've been at a dinner with everyone on that list and are the most refined and erudite among them, including the Lord Governor and everyone else. And Cleland is probably the least. And so, that would be,
because he's kind of got his hands dirty in a class sense, because he works with a working class institution that he's in charge of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like the way I see it, and we can decide if this isn't set in stone, but I see that the commander of the Bluecoats, even though they're probably a noble, they probably can't hold that position unless they have the respect of the organization. And so they have to have some kind of lower class kind of status, where people take them seriously.
Right.
Yeah. And that is always a negative going upwards towards them.
And they of course are the bridge between the nobles and the city institutions, right? Like they're where all the pressure from all the nobles comes pouring down.
What if it's like when you get appointed, you get like a baronet title or something, like as part of the job. So it's like given to you, even if you weren't born a noble, like, oh, you're a baron now. It's like, whatever.
Sure. Right. Because this job sucks that much.
It's like kind of fake nobility kind of thing.
All the better.
That would make it even more annoying.
Yeah. Well, and the Cleland family is not unknown. The Cleland family sits on the city council.
They are a very powerful family.
They're a very powerful family. So, if the captain,
but he has to actually work for a living. Why? How did that happen?
Exactly. So
so he's sour. What way?
I can see a lot of reasons. I also can see a lot of his sourness and his cruelty as being very well deserved based on the difficult thread he has to needle, the difficult job he has to do. So
yeah,
I can have some sympathy for this otherwise.
There's Lou
awful
Rawls,
character.
Captain Rawls from The Wire, and maybe like turned over into more of a villain, a few degrees.
Yeah.
Oh, great. That's me.
Awesome. And how about Janice? Who are you close with?
Janice is close with Hopper, a whisper.
Ooh.
Nice.
Who is she's not close with she's not close with them because they're a whisper. They're just kind of the local weirdo of Brickstone that does a lot of drugs and says weird shit.
Yep.
Mhm.
And Janice grew up with Hopper kind of being around and is oddly protective of him. Like when other Bluecoats want to go beat his ass, she's like, no, Hopper's having a hard time. Leave him alone. He's not hurting anybody, whatever.
Yeah. Hopper has a particular reputation in Coleridge. Yeah, he's known to like hang out on the rooftops. And so Coleridge has a bunch of above ground rail, and that rail used to be the sort of primary transportation infrastructure, and it's been more or less replaced by Gattac rail. But there's still some that exists, and some of it's sort of condemned, and people are living in disused box cars and whatnot. But some of it is still used within Coleridge to move things around within the district, and he claims to see spirit train tracks that just like stretch off into the distance, and he is the only one that sees these
one of these days the right train will come in, and you can get out of this shit town.
Yeah, the ghost train's just gonna come pick him up. Anyhow.
Yeah. So she lends no credence to any of this. She's just
nobody does. It's okay.
Yeah, she's like, it's Hopper. Hopper's that one guy in the neighborhood that even though he's like kooky and wacky, he just kind of gets a pass from everybody. Like all the locals are like, it's just Hopper. Like he's harmless. Her rival. Go ahead.
Beating up Hopper and taking his dream smoke is like the sign of immaturity in Coleridge. It's a sign of young kids that like don't kind of know that like Hopper's okay. Like it happens, but it doesn't happen. It happens because they haven't like been told, and maybe they learn somehow or another. I don't think Hopper does anything to them per se, but
maybe Janice doles out some learning to people like that.
Yeah, I probably chase kids away from Hopper whenever I catch them at it. My rival is Cortland, gang leader.
Oh man.
I think it is expected of kids in Brixton to run with that gang or like associate themselves with it in some way. And I was like, no, fuck you. I'm going to become the police. And we have had beef ever since.
Can I introduce an idea here with Cortland?
Sure.
You can reject this because our blades is more important than the blades in the Cortland leads a gang called the Lost. And the Lost are a bunch of people who are basically vigilantes, but they are at least as established, right? As in the book right now, right? Like, again, we can fuck whatever this Harper dude said. We can make up our own thing.
Doesn't matter.
Whose man's is that anyway? But
Cortland, I could very much see as the person that you went into it with, like, we're gonna make a difference. And when you went left, he went right. And he was like, you both said, fuck it, this isn't working. And he's like, you're right. And he left the force and he started doing his own thing. He went
Yeah.
full on vigilante, and you're like, oh no, that's not what I meant. I meant I'm just gonna go with
yeah, not like that.
yeah, not like that. So I don't know if that appeals to you. I'm happy to.
I think
excise
I think there is like a deep difference in philosophy somewhere there. Like Cortland wanted to be a vigilante proper, and Janice wanted to try to be a vigilante, but the right way.
Yeah.
Like to be a
Quote,
cop,
unquote.
one that makes a difference.
Yeah, like she wanted to be the good cop, which is not, I mean, it's not impossible, but it's incredibly difficult to do with the like the weight of the desk wall institutions pressing her down.
Well, and I think Cortland has just decided that that's too much of an impediment. Like you're trying to wait, you're trying to, just like all these characters, I feel like are trying to like walk this very narrow path. They're trying not to veer too far one or the other. Like you were trying, at least at the time, you were trying to be like the good cop. And Cortland, I think, quickly became disabused of the idea that was even possible. It's like you can't fight the institution from within it. You have to.
And I think having realized that, since Janice is super salty about it and will never acknowledge that Cortland was kind of right. She will never say those words.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Cortland, I think, is a little bit, well, whether Cortland's older or not, maybe Cortland's the same age as Janice, but Cortland definitely didn't come to this path easily. Cortland has their own skeletons in their closet, and I think Janice probably knows them, probably knows of like the shit he did when he was younger, that he's got like deep guilt and regret about. So I think you each have a little bit of that on each other. Like, and maybe he holds the moral high ground now, maybe, who knows, but definitely he's not a saint. Like he has.
Yeah. And also like Janice's retort would be like, well, what difference have you made?
Yeah.
I want receipts. What have you done?
Yeah. Well, I think the word on the street maybe is like, they're just savagely attacking like Foreman and, just like being super violent a-holes all the time. Right. That's what people say, right?
I mean, that's the current retort right now, is that we need to double up our our watches. We need to send more blue coats out. We need to use more force because people like Cortland are openly defying us. They're open. I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what's said.
Nice. That is a very interesting rival to have. I like that.
Yeah.
My life is a mess.
Your life is a mess. Are you cool with having basically the like the Coleridge gang as your connection? I think it's great. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Like the Lost are like the only gang we haven't brought in so far is the Lampblacks. They're like that's like the only
anyway.
Man, Basha's asshole. God damn it.
He is an asshole.
I don't know what you guys thinking about.
Everybody knows Basha is an asshole.
He's like a father figure. What's he's just looking out for you.
That's exactly our point.
Talk is gonna really like Basha Boss when they get to hang out. They're gonna get along really well.
I'm sure Talk will appreciate his taste in whiskey.
Yes, he will.
But yeah, no,
I've both Skovlanders.
Deliberately constructed it like the world's worst Jenga tower. That's my character's backstory.
Awesome. Well,
that is some advanced shit.
Yeah. I look forward to all that crap, and
we'll watch Naja's blue coat fall apart. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
You want to take this scene? Yeah. Cool. No pressure here for me to bring all this stuff. That's okay. I'm gonna bug all of you guys.
It's a slow burn. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't actually want to start with like, okay, here's all your problems at the forefront. My intent is to start with the starting situation because we're playtesting this, and the starting situation involves Belle and Cortland and Slane. So I don't need to do much to make this.
You stuck your character in the most interesting spot.
Yay!
Right. All right, so let's find out about Rona and Trippet.
So I took Rona the Cutter as my friend, and sweetie. We are not currently sleeping together, but and have not. But I think she's older. She fought in the Unity War. She's from Duskfall, but she fought on the Skolander side. She went home and like fought for the homeland and lost. And she is severely wounded from the war. I don't know exactly what her situation is. Maybe I think she lost a leg.
Cool.
And she's older. She's roughly my age, maybe a little bit older. Just a tough, scarred veteran who is a freelance cutter for the most part in the district. Isn't really affiliated with a gang. She has like, you know, a battle axe that she uses sometimes, and
I like it. I have this. I mean, lots of people are going to have lots of disfigurements because of the war, because of working in Lockport, because of working at Coleridge. I wonder, and I don't necessarily expect any of them to be unique or protected or iconic, but I wonder if I could throw an idea, since we've already sort of established that Skullcolin had a limp and he was like sort of known for his weak leg.
Oh, right. He had his cane. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, and that's not to say that her, you know,
it can be whatever. Yeah. I'm open to whatever.
I'm wondering if she was really badly burned in Lockport. Like we know, like these plants, like in trying to sabotage one of them. I don't know if that's appealing to you.
That totally works. Yeah. But, yeah. It's like half of her head. There's scar tissue. Her hair doesn't grow there.
Yeah.
She's got the Zuko burn.
She has the Zuko burn. Yeah, totally. But it doesn't just look cool. It's like debilitating. Like she can't turn her head, you know. Her vision isn't super good.
Right. I think that eye is probably very cloudy. And,
she's been through a lot of shit, and we knew each other. Like I knew her back in the day when she came over and fought. And so finding her here was like, oh, somebody that I know. And I'm pretty sweet on her as a romantic interest. But it's very low key and very like not even super flirtatious even.
Right.
But that
you're letting that take its time.
Yeah. But it's the kind of thing where, you know, in the morning on the way to the precinct, like where I go and get my coffee or whatever, like happens to be near where Rona lives, and I see her.
What is she? Oh, so we've established that she's pretty badass. We've established where she fought. What is she doing right now? Like, what's her normal?
She's a cutter for hire, basically. And I think right now, like she probably worked for the Lamplack. She's probably worked for the Crows. The Lost probably have tried to recruit her. Maybe she's done jobs for them. Maybe I wouldn't be surprised.
So it strikes me as she probably has some amount of leisure time when she's in between jobs, and the rest of it is, when you wouldn't see her. Hopefully you wouldn't see her when she's doing work.
Hopefully not. It hasn't happened yet. It could for sure. And her, I think her deal is like, I'm all right because we have this history, but on the street, like if things are a certain way, if things are wrong and things go bad, I don't think she would necessarily like murder me or something, but I don't think she would take it easy on me either. I think that's obvious that she has her life and she's not looking for anything else, but I definitely am looking for something else. And I think that she's the only person I know really, except my family members. So.
But it sounds like she is, if not romantically inclined towards you, warm towards.
Yeah, you now. We have a pleasant relationship. We chat. I haven't leaned on her in a professional capacity yet for information or anything like that.
Cool. Yeah, let's see.
Probably
what
won't.
Happens when you need to.
I'm gonna try not to.
What about Trippet?
My enemy, I'm gonna say enemy, not rival, is Trippet, a workhouse boss. Not as bad as Slain, but somebody that the Lost was targeting. I didn't know about. He was one of the first people I dealt with when I came to Duskwall, And when I was still working with Scal Colin, I didn't understand the situation.
Yeah.
And he was openly like lashing a worker on the wall outside the factory or something. And I went up and just like separated them. I pushed him over into a bucket of coals and, like mistreated him without understanding the vibe of like, you need to leave them alone. The factory bosses are powerful. And so he's got it out for me. And,
yeah, it makes sense. What do you think is the typical? There's going to be exceptions to this, but I'm kind of thinking about what the typical way in which the factory bosses exercise power over the blue coats, because I imagine that it works something along the lines of they report up to whoever they're reporting to, and those people are connected to the magistrates, the captains, the whatnot.
Right.
They can then just rain shit down on you.
I think that's very accurate,
workers, right? Like it's not that they have direct control over you. It's
those
just
factories are making money for the nobility,
right?
And so the nobility is at dinner with the commander of the watch, and so at some point,
right?
And it doesn't necessarily have to go that high per se. Like it can go just up to the foreman, or the like factory owner. If the boss isn't able to work, if the quotas aren't being met by any means necessary or whatever, that level, like just below the nobility level, is equal to like a precinct captain kind of thing, right?
Right. Certainly your boss could get chewed out by their boss. Really easily.
Yeah. And the way I see it is it all comes down to just, hey, look, we're all except for the laborers, we're all doing fine here. Like, I don't need your guys rocking the boat. They're getting their cut. We're making money. Just be cool.
Yeah.
Like we don't need to have this kind of strife. And that's a very compelling argument at that level.
When you don't care about the laborers that they be crapped on, right?
They do not. Until recently, no, they haven't cared about that.
Yeah.
So I think there's disciplinary action floating in the breeze because of that. From the blue
so
coats.
This is like a recent thing that hasn't been like it hasn't been set straight yet.
It happened with Scal Colin, although I think he didn't die super long ago. But I think the being assigned to the task force has kind of like suspended that a little.
Yeah.
Because the captain's like, well, I don't know. I mean, I can't assign someone to the mandate and then like put them up for a reprimand or something. Like that's going to look bad.
Was that
then they'll have me breathing down their neck trying
so was Scal Colin so two things I could see. One is Scal Colin was almost certainly the one that pulled you off of him, right? Like he was a little slower than you because he's got his cane and he's like whoa, and then by the time he got in there it was too late. You'd already tossed him. And the damage was done. But also, do you think it's possible that this was like a rare moment of kindness to your captain that kind of insulated you from this? Like if he knew the shit was coming down strange.
And he assigned me to the task force to keep me out of trouble.
Yeah. Do you think? I mean, does that sound consistent? Like, I mean,
it's a nice angle so that the captains aren't just bad guys. Like that's a nice way.
And it also, frankly, puts a little leverage on you, which is like,
I
fished you out of
the
fire.
Her or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. That's really good. We should figure out who our captain is at the precinct.
Yeah, we should name our captain. If any of you haven't, I have not. I have a couple characters that I've thought of that might be in the setting, but
could that be one of our crew contacts?
So at the beginning, we don't have any.
Oh, okay.
We are the outsider Imperial mandate, and we got nothing. We got to earn it.
Okay, great.
But that's one we could cultivate for sure. I would be in favor of that.
Yeah.
Let's see where are our names.
I mean, let's look at your contact list. I don't think you have a laborer, a whisperer, a gang leader, a drug dealer. Yeah, right. You've got no precinct captain options.
No, I don't.
Can't be like, I'm buddy with the boss.
Nope. Let's see. People. Where are my people? People tables.
I think Lamond is a name that I've seen a couple times floating around. I want to make sure I'm not.
Lamond. I like Lamond. That's a good name.
I feel like that's one of the scoundrel blue coat contacts is Lamond.
There's LaRose.
Or LaRose, that's the one.
I'm not seeing Lamond, and I just did a text search in Special Edition. I'm not seeing
I think technically it's Lomond, but
Lomond.
I mean, technically is kind of bullshit in a fantasy world.
Well, what is going to be easier for us to say so that I can say it the wrong way every time?
Marika?
Oh, the shade is real.
Exactly.
I like Lamond.
I like Lamond too.
Yeah, we're gonna
Lomond.
Yeah, Lamond. And
let's have a lady captain. Why not?
Yeah, I agree. I think
got enough dudes going around right
Captain
now.
Lamond is and by precinct captain we mean that she is the captain of the Coal Ridge precinct. There multiple? Yes. Are there multiple precincts within a district?
Coal Ridge there could be, but Coal Ridge has one.
Yeah, right. So she is pretty much from both. Well, not from Uset. Is Uset the way your character's name is pronounced? Not from Uset's perspective, but from Talk and from Janice, she's
as high up a person as you would ever encounter.
She is the boss, but she's also like our direct, like there's like watch sergeants and shift sergeants and patrol sergeants and that kind of thing. But she's our direct boss, essentially. Like we work for her. She's the highest ranked blue coat in the district, but also
the organization is fairly flat.
It's very flat. Yeah.
Right. Well, and in part that is also because you're part of this task force. Like even if there was more tiers, you've kind of jumped through some of those. I imagine.
I like the idea that we've been like pulled askew from the normal flow of things.
Right.
Yeah, you get to be all extra special and fancy.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't want to be.
I frankly think that Talk was on watch duty and before this, and watch duty would not have remained a safe place for him.
Yeah.
For very long.
Yeah, Trippett's people would have come after me.
I mean, you're a big, tough, scary guy, right? No doubt about that. No one's going to mess with you one-on-one in fisticuffs, but...
Yeah, it's a tough thing messing with the blue coats as an organization, but if I'm a bit of an outsider,
right? Maybe
they feel like they can get away with it.
I think there's at least enough of the Bravos, Parker in particular. Parker, if Parker is not too evocative of leverage for everybody.
Oh, Parker's fine with me.
Parker, who is one of the watch that is more than happy to sow discontent within the precinct about Talk and how you don't belong here and how what side of the Unity War did you fight on again? And just constantly attempting to undermine your position. And once he can do that, then you are like chum in the water, right? The moment he can undermine you as a blue coat, you're just a Skullander and you don't matter.
As long as it's plausibly deniable for their like honor, right? Like a blue coat can't be openly.
Sure. But once you've turned on them, once you've convinced everybody that you've turned on them, then you're the enemy, right?
It's no true Scotsman, which is ironically appropriate here.
Yeah.
He wasn't a real blue coat, you know. Yeah. That's
right. Exactly. So not to make Parker another enemy of yours, but I think he is the agent. He is the agent of Trippett within the Force for you. At least that's what it looks like. I mean, maybe not, but.
And he embodies the gang side, the Bravo side of the Force for us.
Yeah.
And like that's only a problem because you piss someone off, and then once you've got that settled, you can be back in the fold and it can be fine. He can be your buddy again. It's just business for him in this situation.
Yep.
Well, that's a good point. It is.
Yeah. You might take it very personally, but
for him, it's just like, I don't know, this guy's breathing down my neck about this like Scovelander in my unit. I guess I gotta lean on John's character.
I want to do the minimum thing possible and live a comfortable life.
Yep.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, that's good. I like all that. What do we do? Does that all our? That's all our rivals and friends.
That's all our rivals and friends. So now you need to choose a
Vice.
vice.
Oh yeah, Vice. Oh yeah.
Talkie, it looks like you already got yours.
I got mine. I have the Black Lung Pop, and because of being in Lockport for so long, particularly during the war in the port, the Empire. I'm just making this up, but they assaulted Lockport like 3 times in these big naval contests to like overcome the port defenses, which they did by shelling the hell out of Lockport and just devastating it. They had to rebuild all the refineries and everything. So like I was working as a port watchman.
Yeah.
And so I just got exposed to a lot of toxic shit. And I have this chronic condition, which is respiratory to some degree. And sometimes I have like black fluid that comes out of my eyes. And there, there's probably like you're a weeper or something. There's some kind of like colloquial thing about people who come from Lockport. Another way to sort of ostracize them. And yeah.
And I think this is another area where you and Rona probably relate as well.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Injuries are maybe not identical, but they're from the same source, right?
Exactly. So I treat it with this pipe. I smoke a pipe, and I'm sure that Janice has noticed that I don't smoke tobacco all the time. I get myself some dream smoke from some friendly local folk, who.
Dad,
you can't be dealing to my partner.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of willful ignorance because Lockport is like a real fucking Wild West martial law place of just whatever the fuck. And the like tight contraband controls and stuff in Duskwall are unfamiliar to talk, but I mean, he knows about them, but he kind of like doesn't take them very seriously.
Sure.
So he's not necessarily smoking out in the staff room at the precinct office, but it's close to that.
It's out back.
It's right. Yeah.
It's on the roof.
It's on the roof. Exactly. Smoking his dream smoke, but it's a vice because he is doing it to treat his illness. But he indulges, like it's stupor. It's not pleasure. It's he just knocks himself out.
Yeah.
Some nights.
Does he have difficulty sleeping other times? Like is he? Yeah. And is that because of respiratory issues of like difficulty breathing, or is that because of bad dreams?
Yeah, it's respiratory issues. It's flashbacks that he got shelled during that, and that was a really intense trauma, and that's part of it. So sometimes he needs to just be knocked out on the stuff.
How about Uset? What? I mean, we all know Uset's perfect. He doesn't have a vice. He just gains stress until he traumas out.
I didn't talk about pronouns and gender stuff and look for my character or any of that.
We didn't say looks. No, we should say looks.
Yeah.
Although I have a pretty good picture of John's character because he's done some describing.
Yeah, please.
But I think for my character, I'm gonna make her we'll say she's a lady, but also like back in Uduasha or in any place where they speak Hadrathi, there's like a different set of pronouns that would be used for her. Because there's a cultural tradition of like transgendered people and they have their own language sets and stuff.
Right. In Hadrathi, it's more nuanced.
Yeah, but in the like imperial language or whatever, she's
this uncivilized place.
Right.
She has to, yeah.
And so, so she's a trans woman. Basically, she probably has some concoction that she takes that's her like equivalent of hormone replacement. That's like a potion or whatever, or a tonic that has been generationally kind of passed down.
I think alchemical science is pretty well developed. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like to me, it seems totally reasonable that there's something like that. And that has there's some like cultural stuff there in terms of it being like a long-standing tradition within certain groups in Iruvia to have people like this. And so she is short, dark skin, dark hair. She wears glasses, and is very, we already talked about her being like super posh and very elegant. Doesn't like getting her hands dirty. She has like everything about her is very like manicured in particular. And her hair is always like done really nicely and like oiled and slicked back.
Does she have like evidence gloves that she puts on before she touches a crime scene? And
oh yeah, of course, like
that's a procedure. What the fuck?
Like fingerprints are not an issue, but it doesn't mean you wouldn't want to like, you know.
Yeah, she doesn't want to get her hands dirty. And so yeah, she's like very proper and ordered, like one of those people who just like puts the pencil down at a right angle on their desk. And, like, and it shows in her like dress and deportment, although she dresses in a very like fashionable imperial city noble kind of way. Like she doesn't dress.
So
she dresses.
Do you wear the like the dress inspector uniform, the red coat and cap and everything, or do you dress like out of uniform, like plain clothes?
She goes plain clothes, but she's in like nice, like tailored in imperial city like suits and dresses and stuff like that.
Yeah. Cool.
So how far does someone have to push? I asked just out of curiosity to get a reaction from her. Like there are certain things that are very hard to like really come down on somebody about, you know, if they brush past her desk and that pencil happens to get knocked a few degrees to the side, is that enough that she'll just fix it? Or is that enough that she'll chastise them? I mean, what's her sort of demeanor when the roughness of the rest of Duskfall interacts with her?
Yeah, I think like she's not going to lash out at anyone for small stuff, but she like notices and is disappointed by it, and will like make a barely audible sigh as she like straightens out the you know like letter, the place where you put documents on her desk. If it gets knocked, she'll like step back. But if anyone were to ever like touch her with dirty hands, or something like that would be a problem.
That would be a problem. And when she realizes that she's if she were, I don't know, just theoretically, if she were to realize that she was being hazed, I'm just saying from, you know, her initial reaction here, it seems like that would be taken up to the authorities very quickly. Like she would not suffer sort of kind of hazing for very long.
And she doesn't have any hang up around like, oh, I have to like endure it or take it on myself. She would just be like, cool, I know who signs your paycheck. I'm just go like make your day bad.
Awesome. Cool. Right. Because I imagine that the very first thing that happened when you were like assigned to this task force was people started pushing those boundaries to figure out where they were. Right. And she just came down like so hard immediately. Yeah.
Like almost preemptively.
There are dumb enough people in our precinct that would do that.
Yeah. I think one blue coat
it requires a certain amount of idiocy, but we've got them. We've got
one of them is riding the boat right now. Like one of them has like their job changed after they.
I was gonna say I think someone was fired or demoted or something like that.
Yeah.
You got it. Oh, riding the boat for sure. The canal patrol boat is like the worst assignment. It's the worst assignment.
Yeah. There's some guy out there who's riding the boat now.
It's smelly and wet and just it's the worst.
Yeah.
I thought it would be funny to like spill coffee on her or something, and she was just like, no, you're done here.
We're not doing that. Yeah.
So yeah, that's her. She's like very fashionable. She's always like dressed very smartly and very neatly, and her desk is always like perfectly ordered.
Nice. What's your vice?
Kind of small and mousy. See, the problem with this list, John, is that weird is on the list.
I know, Andrew, and you are going to choose it. We all know you're going to choose it.
I really want to choose it.
It's okay.
It's the best
follow
one.
your passion. It's fine. It's fine.
Although my favorite vice actually exists in Uduasha, and it's the weird like snake in the woods.
Oh, in the park. Yeah.
I go to the park and talk to the weird demon snake, shadowy demon snake.
Yeah, I mean that's what you do at parks, right?
Yeah. But no,
you could find something equivalent.
I think it's Wicker that's on the boat.
You gotta, Wicker.
Wicker. Okay.
Yeah.
Skip me and come back because I'm wrestling with my own desire to take the weird option.
We shut down your attune, so indulge in your weirdness here if you want to.
So so Nadja, thank you for bringing so what does Janice look like, and also what's her
Janice aims toward a nondescript appearance. She has tan skin. She has dark hair that she keeps braided down her back. And she probably rolls it up into a bun for when she's doing field work, because she's been on the streets long enough to know that you don't have like hair trailing down your back. If
you don't have something somebody can grab.
She has very strong brows, and always she wears her uniform. She's kind of like that kid that has new shoes but doesn't want to look like they have new shoes. Like she doesn't want like the ostentatious, too shiny appearance. So she looks like lived in. Like her whole aim in her appearance is to not attract attention. Around the precinct, at least. Wearing the uniform on the street is what it is. And that might be a situation where, depending on the person, she might tip up the brim of her hat, be like, "Hey, it's me, fucking chill," or "No, I don't know you, follow the law or else." It
seems to me like as a virtue of being on this task force, you could, at the discretion of Uset, at least, walk in plain clothes as well. Like it seems to me like in this position, not being on the watch, not other things, like Uset may give you all permission to wear plain clothes for the good of the mandate, right?
And that is very complicated for her, because she draws like a very strict line between "I'm at work right now" or "I'm not at work. Feel free to talk to me like a brickstoner, because I am." But as soon as the inspector is like, "Okay, we're gonna go do this task in plain clothes," she's like, "Man, fuck." Like you're fucking my shit up.
You used to be able to transform yourself.
And like it's code switching. Like she'd totally, be like, "Now I'm doing this, now I'm doing that, and now you're telling me to do this in
the other clothes. Way, right?"
And that is not done in Coleridge, and you don't understand.
Right.
More ways to fuck up Janice's life. There's an endless list of ways we can fuck up Janice's life.
She walks a very narrow line, which for me is the fun in playing the status quo, is like trying to maintain it when everything is trying to push you over. She's not a very remarkable looking person, especially in plain clothes on the streets of Coleridge.
So if she's in plain clothes, then does she make some effort to still like wear like the blue coat chain or some other sort of sign of office, so that even though she's in normal clothes, like there's something just like some fetish to sort of hold on to be like, no, see, I'm at work right now? Or is she like fully adopted this?
She has hitherto never worked in plain clothes.
Okay, cool. So we'll see what that's like on screen. I love it.
So she would probably like try to hide her badge under her shirt or something, and like duck her head. Like it's not what she would be doing. I feel like my vice needs to be obligation.
Sounds right.
I think Janice has a younger sibling still at home, and is therefore like still very invested in making sure that, because her parents are doing what her parents are doing, and they're responsible for their own actions. But this younger sibling, she's like, "Man, fuck, I gotta go make sure that he or she, I haven't decided yet. He, she, they, I haven't decided yet. I have to make sure that they're okay."
That's real good. That's real good.
Do you think that since both your parents are sort of lost causes, that they are also in part holding the house together, or are they young enough that they're still like, are they the ones that are trying to like keep the Schrodinger house somewhat respectful, or are they too young for any of that?
I think from an impartial standpoint, they're doing the best they can with what they have.
Yeah.
And they're definitely trying to maintain some stability for the family. From Janice's perspective, they're fucking up her younger sibling's life. And Janice has to like save the day.
Yeah. So I think her sibling works in the factory then, right? Like has a legit job.
Yeah.
It's a grueling one and it sucks.
No child labor laws.
No child labor laws.
Yeah.
16-hour days, not an issue.
That's my vice is that's how I de-stress is by assuaging this nagging worry I have about my sibling.
That's good.
Maybe Cortland is trying to recruit. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean,
I might be connecting too many dots.
I mean, Cortland's base is certainly Cortland and Belle are certainly cannibalizing from the same base. They have very different approaches, but they have a similar message and a similar audience. So yeah, I could see it going.
Well, yeah. So it's just I go home and I'm like, don't become a gangster. Don't try to unionize. Don't sell drugs.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
And I think your younger sibling is like, so
have a shitty life working in a factory.
Right.
That's all that's left.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
What was the line in Spider-Man Homecoming where Tony Stark's like, don't do anything I would do, and don't do anything I wouldn't do. Walk that narrow line.
Yeah. Yeah. She wants her sibling on the tightrope with her, and maybe they're not into that. I don't know. Well, we'll find out. That's good. We should name your sibling now. Yeah. Janice Schrodinger.
Yeah, and name your vice purveyor / younger sibling.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm getting there. Oh God, no, not that name.
Definitely not that name.
Not that one.
That name is the worst name. Don't pick that.
My brain was like Van, and I was like, no, fuck that Final Fantasy 12 bullshit. We don't do that.
Yeah.
Out my house with that name. But I want something like monosyllabic, fairly simple.
Like June or
Sib or Seb.
Rose.
I want to avoid the alliteration with Schrodinger because that's already a lot.
Bug is a particular favorite of mine. That's short words.
Dom. Cal.
What about, I know I said monosyllabic, but what about Kitty? Because it amuses the fuck out of me to have Schrodinger's cat in my family.
I like that. It's like a family nickname that stuck, and they just whatever their name
like
is,
Catherine or whatever. But
they just call her Kitty.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
It's my own personal little goof, and I love it.
Is Kitty in a room? There's no way to know.
I don't know.
Right. Well, so I think that's really apt in some ways, in that Kitty is trying to do in her own way the thing that you tried to do. Like walk this narrow path, but she hasn't like stepped off it yet, right? Like you got involved with blue coats and figured out that didn't work. She's still in the factories. Like you probably worked in the factories when you were young, right? Like she's still like at that moment of choosing, right? Do I become a drug dealer?
State of potential? Yeah,
right. She's young enough to be in that state of potential. So I like the idea.
Quantum cuts.
That's right.
Deep cuts.
That's right. Strap in, everybody. It's not going to stop here.
No.
All right. So your vice is obligation. Your purveyor is Kitty. Awesome.
Okay, Sean.
And yes,
here's my compromise that I will put forward.
Okay. I mean, I don't know why you're compromising, but sure.
I want to be into some weird shit, but I want to be into some weird shit that pertains to all this other stuff that we've established.
I would love that. That would really be satisfying to me.
I don't want to be like I fuck off to some other district. Yeah. No. So what is some weird stuff that's going on in Coleridge that I could be obsessed with or involved with in some way?
Here are a couple weird things that I know that are going on in Coleridge. The first one is
because I see in Duskwall Vice Purveyors there is a listing for Coleridge of Ilasil, the ruins of the temple to forgotten gods. So that's certainly an option.
Yeah. That is totally an option. That's not one I've thought about yet, but that doesn't mean that we cannot, in our masterful ways.
But I would love to hear of stuff that you've already got.
So I thought about a couple things. So one of them is the Burned King. So Coleridge is named for its primary product, coal, right? And it was originally called the Scoves coal. This was back when it was a Scoveland, like a long time ago, before the Empire, before the Empire had taken Dustfall. When it was a part of Scoveland, and it was called the Scoves coal. And there is as I see it, the traditions tying back to the old Scoveland traditions have just been embedded and carried through into the current culture. And so there's a particular post within the precinct that everybody lights all their. It's a particularly abrasive slab that of stone that everybody lights their matches off of, and it's just been completely blackened, but from like dozens or hundreds of years at this point of being struck. And there is and it's like very tied into this sense of tradition, but it's also this weird taboo, good, bad luck if you don't do it kind of kind of charm. And I think that the Burned King is a very folklorian avatar of Coleridge, that like
the local deity,
exactly. And I don't think most people think about it deeply, but there is room to dive deeper if that's something that like is like, oh, that's a cultural interest of mine, right? Like obviously this wouldn't be something that you came from. This would be like a new thing that you identified as like, that's a ritual practice that everyone's like, nah, it's a tradition, right? So there's that little piece. And then there's the sorry.
Well, I mean, to someone from Utawasha, like seeing people ritualistically light matches and use fire, like I could imagine this like instant, like, oh, you don't even know,
right? Oh, they clearly don't.
You don't even know. Yeah.
And they might really, but from your perspective,
some of them might. Some of them might.
Yeah. And it's the fact that it also sounds a bit like Ixis in terms of being like a demon of smoke and fire and ash, and also that it's dirty. Because the one thing I think is really interesting is having a character who, when they indulge, it's the facade of like control, order, like breaks down, and that after she engages in vice, she comes back dirty, so covered in soot or whatever else.
So this would be going into the coal mines themselves, or touching this thing, or
Okay.
So
that's.
I don't know if we can see the map, Sean, but
we can't because I've got all the character sheets I wrote. But I will show it to everybody.
If you look at the map, you will see that a very large portion of the district is dominated by this giant mountain hill thing where the coal mine was and still sort of is. And it casts a huge shadow across the district. And I think that is part of this whole thing. This ancient.
So there being a hundreds years old coal mine that is mostly in disuse that I can go wander around in.
Yeah,
is a thing.
It's pre-cataclysm even, so it's like it's like 1,000 years old.
Yeah,
great, perfect.
And it's mostly in disuse except for squatters and gangs that hide out in there, and like it's not abandoned, but there's large quantities of it that no one goes into. There's once you get past the you kind of have to get past the squatters to get far enough in, but once you get past them and deep in,
and so in as much as we talked about my character being disconnected from cultural tradition, I think this is her going and like looking for something. Like she feels this gap that she can never quite pin down. And so this is her seeking some kind of like deeper meaning or something. And so she is currently, while in Coleridge, that looks like her trying to figure out what the Burned King is and if she can talk to it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's convinced that it's a demon. So, but I'll make my vices seeking out the Burned King.
I dig it.
And of course, because she's an inspector, the only way she can conceptualize chasing some sort of religion is like, cool, I have to get to the bottom of this.
Right. The literal bottom.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine she's probably one of those minds at this point, some amount, and it can tell that they are of a labyrinth, right? Like somebody once upon a time understood how they work, but some have collapsed and others have been dug under, and like, there's no rhyme or reason to them. They're not.
For all we know, it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside.
I mean, it certainly seems like it goes on forever.
My headcanon is that for her, when she goes to indulge her vice, she just plays like IRL roguelike in the mines.
Yeah, makes runs at the mines. The thing I'm imagining is like in the second Wizardiversity book, where there's the temple where you're not allowed to have any lights in the lower part, and the character has to navigate by just like pushing her hand against the wall and like feeling her way around the space, that she goes down and does that in the mines of Coleridge and comes back like covered in soot and all disheveled. And
it's super dangerous. The fact that she hasn't like sprained an ankle, fallen down, like injured herself is kind of remarkable, because it's not designed to be safe, right? Like there's rails because the rails go into it, right? Because there's carts, but like they break and they disconnect. So there's I love it.
And she wanders around it with no light at all.
Cool. That seems good.
That seems great. Yeah. And I'm gonna leave off of every other bit about the Burned King that we'll just discover and play, because I don't have a whole lot, but like the practices beyond just the traditions, I think we can.
We'll find out about that.
I'm aware of it at the precinct, and now is like trying to figure it out, and that's her vice. Is this like?
And nobody calls it that, right? Like she even had to dig just to find that that's like what they call it, right? It's just the post, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just the coal post, and where everybody just, and it's not. It's a stone. It's a piece of stone, but they call it the coal post because it's just.
So cool. That's me.
That's good.
My vice.
That's good stuff.
Dig it.
What do we do now, Sean?
Well, now we have completed all 8 steps in several hours. We completed all 8 steps. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at what would be our crew, but in this case, it's our unit. And we're going to pick. I'm going to assume that unit works more or less like crew in terms of we're going to pick a special ability. And we are not going to pick a chosen contact because you don't have any. But it looks like there's some other clocks that we should maybe discuss, because they're relevant to.
They are pretty important to this.
They're relevant to the game, and also the ways in which you get XP. We can do the XP at the beginning of the game, but let's talk about the clock. So first thing we should do is you should pick. We should name your unit.
Yeah.
If you're inclined to.
So what is the mandate here? Is it to like settle this labor dispute?
I think it's,
or to like resolve this situation, this labor.
It's to stop. It's to resolve the work stoppage. That is the. It's to resume production. Is your mandate. And I think it would be worded in a way that's like restore order in the district of Coleridge, such that the lawful industry continues. Right, like it's
resume production to meet quotas as established. Yeah.
Right. So it's not to say that unions can't possibly happen. They're certainly not within the. They're certainly fraught with. They're not part of the status quo. They would, as soon as one person was able to unionize, every other worker in Dustfall would want to do the same thing. I mean, they're fraught with all sorts of problems, but it's not like it couldn't be done.
Right. There's no instruction not to have that happen.
it's
like
just
whatever needs to happen so that the money flows again is basically on the table.
yeah.
Mhm.
There is no name. I'll say this. I couldn't change the name field because it's shared with the PC sheet. So if I change it, it changes it everywhere. So we don't really need to name our mandate.
We'll
We have our warrant as written. I just wrote some notes there. I think that captures it roughly. So
yeah. And I'll point out, this is the starting situation, but I'll point out that there's a very, very, very specific thing that started the work stop that cut off this work stoppage, which is the disappearance of one engineer. And I'm going to look for his name because I don't actually remember what the hell I wrote. I made this.
I don't either.
I think it's Haig because I thought that was funny.
That is funny.
And we'll go into it more once the game starts. But everybody knows. No, it's Hale because I didn't quite. There's Spark Right, and Spark Rights are generally considered the educated working class. If not, I mean, they Spark Rights are not laborers. They are chief engineers and important people within them. And there was a Spark Right named Kieran Hale who had a disagreement with Mr. Slane about the operations of the Dunville Forge. And the two went out to discuss the disagreement over drinks, and Hale has not been seen since. No bells went off. Maybe Hale just decided to take a ticket to go somewhere else. But a lot of accusations about whatever Slane has done to Hale have come up. And it's very, very clear that Slane has disappeared other people before. They've just not been important. So family members who have just lost people that they don't know, they've never heard of them, they've never seen them. No bell ever went off, but they have no idea what happened to them, are sort of coming out of the woodwork, and they've been emboldened by Bell Brogan, who was willing to accuse Slane openly, and by Cortland, who has taken some of the other foremen, accosted them openly. So this one incident, like, it doesn't seem like a big deal. Like, who even cares about this one stupid engineer, has cascaded into a bunch of other ones that have now created an actual issue. Yeah,
everything was already primed to blow, and that was like the spark.
Yeah, it seems from all those purposes like this is a relatively insignificant thing compared to all the other crap. It's just, it fits with all the other shit he's always done. So why this matters? But it does. It did, and and everything's just falling apart after that. So there's been fights in the streets. There's been a factory fire. There's been all sorts of bad shit, and everybody knows that this cannot hold. Like this level of tension, and it's still just sort of bubbling up around the edges. It's not open rioting or anything, but it's definitely not sustainable.
I would say, because of our cast of characters here, there's an interesting wrinkle or detail. This is the starting situation as given for the mandate, but because of who Andrew's character is, there's a really interesting extra aspect happening where this is clearly an extremely local thing, and it impinges directly on the productivity of the Leviathan hunting fleet of the Empire. And if you were looking at this as a strategist, you would contain this as a local thing as much as you possibly could. There's no reason to, if you have to get an inspector, like, get an inspector from down the coast here in Akaros. Like, this is a very, very localized thing. And to have the like eminent noble Eruvian inspector from the Imperial City show up to deal with this it colors that situation in a way that it makes the mundanity of it like questionable, right? Like, what is really going on here? This is something fucked up has happened. So I like that. I like that the starting situation can take on all these different flavors depending on who the PCs are. Yeah.
And the angle that Uset would know that she would know for sure, because this would have been part of like her very initial briefings, is that Roderick Dunville, who is a city council member, who is in your upper echelon of circles, is the owner of the Dunville factory, the Dunville labor camps, and is absolutely not a person to it's not so much not a person to cross, but just not a person who will suffer these sort of issues at all. And they're very much, though a local, like Roderick is a noble, Roderick is a council member, and higher status than you, but certainly of the same class as you. So from a strictly like you're an inspector, they're a city council member, they outrank you, but from they're a noble of Dustfall, you're a noble of Udawasha, it's not, you're more like peers. So there's some ways in which they can order you to do this, and there's some ways in which it's very clear that they asked for outside assistance, right? Like that this was both an order and an ask in different contexts, if that adds anything to it.
Yeah, that's good.
And that is because I stole from the inspector starting situation, because all the Blue Coats, Vigilantes, and inspectors situations are all tied around the same kind of thing. So I'm just pulling a little bit from there. Because past Sean did present Sean a favor. Cool. But we'll dig into that in a bit when we actually get to play. So let me look at crew creation real quick and see what are the other things that we need to do for crew creation, because we know our crew type. Choose an initial reputation. I think that's still germane.
That is still germane. And I would say this reputation is the word on the street. The mandate has come to Coleridge, and people talk about it.
Yeah.
So we haven't done much to pursue it yet, but there's some vibe.
So in a lot of ways, this isn't even an earned reputation. This is just a gut reaction that people have.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think a big part of it is who got brought in as the inspector, and as Sean was saying, that sends a certain message.
Yeah,
Sean was saying, but
I would say one angle to think about is like Dunville's lapdog or something like that is potentially a reputation.
Yeah, like they're here
right?
to
right.
I
mean, everyone knows who's responsible here, who's the most powerful person. It's the Dunville family.
Dunville's name is literally on every factory building. There's streets named after Dunville. There's no secrecy here about who owns this place.
People would naturally assume that we were just here to do their dirty work.
So we're Dunville's lackeys by reputation.
I feel like that makes sense.
I like having a bad reputation that is also inaccurate. It's good.
I mean, it's certainly what Dunville hopes, right? Like it's not an unreasonable assumption.
Well, and it's extremely useful. And if we decide not to tell the truth, like people thinking we're Dunville's lackeys is really powerful, because they will get the fuck out of our way. So yeah.
And it gives you a little bit of leverage over people like Slane, who otherwise could ignore most Blue Coats.
That is very true. Slane cannot ignore the Dunville family at all.
He reports to the Dunville family. So if he sees
they own him. They own him 100%.
Completely.
Yeah.
And yet he owns Coleridge. So
yep.
I mean, at least that is what is established up until now. So we'll see how he deals with your transgression on his territory.
Cool. So we've got our rep.
So the next thing you would normally do is pick and choose a lair. There are things like your lair and whatnot. So, but
right now, I think our choices are the Blue Coat precinct, or a commandeered storefront.
Where we could have an offsite that's kind of crummy.
Yeah.
I would really like to see it in the Blue Coat precinct, because I would really like to see the drama of you dealing with the other cops on a
would like that too.
Consistent basis.
Same.
Yep.
So someone has been kicked out of their office though.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
fuck
yeah.
that guy anyway.
Yeah.
Like us having
wait.
space has ruffled some.
Who got sent to the boat?
Wicker.
Yeah. Okay. We have Wicker's office.
Okay, so Wicker
doesn't need it.
Wicker was a sergeant.
Wicker was high enough that he had an office.
He was like a patrol sergeant. Yeah.
Ex-patrol sergeant.
Yep.
Yeah. He got fucking bumped down.
Yep. Yeah, I think Wicker was too familiar with you. I think Wicker thought of himself as a charmer. Perhaps he has a certain amount of charm, but it obviously was not well taken with you. And I think Wicker was just like exercised a certain amount of like, oh, hey, little lady, I'm gonna show you around.
Yeah, let me show you the ropes, how we do things here in the big city.
Right?
Yeah.
And
she's
it
like,
was not
you like
long.
The Bill Paxton character.
Yeah, right. And I think Wicker has a real I think Wicker is both totally sore about losing his position, obviously, but still thinks in his delusion that you're into him. So if that's okay.
Yeah, he can bark up this tree all he wants.
Yeah. Fucking Wicker.
God damn it.
Yeah. Awesome. So your lair, and I don't think there's a spot on the sheet.
Yeah, that is one thing I could not change. There's a way to do it, and I could probably figure it out, but currently we don't have a place to write that. So there's notes. Maybe we'll just put it in the notes.
Cool. Establish your hunting grounds. Is that still a thing that is done?
No, not for these people.
I didn't think so. So therefore, you're not going to be paying coin. Choose a special ability. Here we go.
Andrew was pushing for handpicked, which makes sense.
I mean, we've described you as handpicked already, so
it gives our characters extra dots in actions, which is always a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like friends in high places as well.
Friends in high places makes a lot of sense. We do have friends in high places, so
a special arrangement could be justified. You may come. This warrant may include special dispensation to use force as necessary.
Maybe. So
I don't think it's your character style.
I've already got a good person to know. So the fact that
that's true.
Arrangement prevents us from getting negative status with the spirit wardens. Like we.
That's true. That's true. So normally, for people at home, when killing is involved on the blue coat side, there's heat on the unit and stuff, but also you just straight up take a -1 faction status with the spirit wardens because they do not want to have you also adding to their body count. It's institutionally rude to do that. So a special arrangement says when killing is involved, you may spend 2 coin instead of taking that -1 status. But as Andrew said, his character can take stress to like smooth over factional trouble. So we might not need that as long as she can eat the stress.
As long as I'm willing to take 5 stress for it.
Every now and then you're going to have to really bite. But that's right. It would be 5 stress. That's intense. That's intense.
But y'all aren't going to fly off the handle and kill people though. That's not how you do
it.
I like the Citadel too, where like, maybe we have to earn that, but it's like, it's the friendly local tavern kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's too early for us. Although I could see your character having that.
Like if we did get that ability, it would be through Janice.
Yeah.
But Janice could not bring Uset to the local bar.
Yeah, it does feel premature in that.
I totally agree. That's a good point. That's a good point. So handpicked or friends in high places, maybe? Is that what we're thinking?
I feel like those are both. I mean, the
I kind of like the idea of taking less heat out of the gate because that'll let us really maybe hit things a bit harder.
Mm-hmm.
But having an extra dot is nice. So
we are going to gather some institutional pressure very quickly.
I think we will. Yeah. So for also people watching, heat in the blue coat sense is institutional heat. It's when your heat goes up and hits that threshold, you don't get a wanted level like scoundrels do, but you get disciplinary actions. Like somebody is like, okay, we can't. This isn't going to work.
Yeah, you're not fit for the job or whatever.
Yeah.
I think Friends and High Places makes total sense for your crew.
It feels good. I think Uset has brought that to the table.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Well, and we've established that the captain, the precinct captain, Lamond, has some desire to keep Talk out of trouble. So there's and I think Janice is been around long enough and has been accepted and is like and every cop's cop, right? Like, so I think there's areas, certainly the most overt is Uset, but I think the rest of you have degrees to which you're connected as well.
It makes sense. And that, so it says when you reduce heat on the unit, take -1 heat. So that's like multiplicative. If we all reduce heat during downtime, that magnifies.
Each time
because we all have our own vectors on how to leverage the friendship. And every time we receive funding for the mandate, we get +1 coin to our stock of money.
Nice.
I like that. That's good.
All right. So the next thing is to assign 2 crew upgrades. And your crew upgrades.
This is a hard choice.
Start with training and conviction and savvy, which for folks, that means that if you spend a downtime action training in one of those areas, conviction or savvy, normally you'd get 1 XP to allocate to that area. And then once you got the 6, you could get a dot something. But if you have training in it, then you get 2 XP. So it really makes the training downtime action like have some.
It's twice as good.
Well, it's twice as good, but it's the first time it's worth it, I think. It's like 1 is for downtime action.
1 is a little borderline.
2 is
one is like to finish the track when you really need it.
Yeah.
But also I think that there's something to be said for the things that aren't highlighted.
Yes.
The mandate does not reward force or personal development. It specifically rewards conviction and savvy. And that kind of tells you like, this is what, by default, this is what the mandate is trying to do.
Yeah.
We don't have to stay in that place. We can grow beyond those borders, but that's the initial kind of
requisition additional training for those things. Absolutely.
So here's the thing. Here's a slightly different take on upgrades for the unit here. Instead of a vault, so scoundrel crews need a place to keep all the money, right? Like if you know anything about drug dealing, you know that one of the big problems is what to do with all the cash. Like how do you store it? How do you launder it? Where do you put it? It's a problem. Like the space it takes up is a problem. And so that's in Blades. As scoundrels, it's hard to keep a lot of coin on hand, and then you need to sort of upgrade your crew to like have space to store all this money. I wasn't able to edit this aspect of the sheet, but where it tracks coin, it says vaults currently, but what that should say is discretionary fund. So there's 2 levels of this upgrade for funding for the mandate. The first level adds 4 slots to our coin space for the mandate, but unlike scoundrels, when you take that, you get 4 coin.
Yeah.
So
funds are made available to
you
us.
are given a block of money, and if you take the second upgrade, you get 8.
Right. The first one gets you 4, and then the second one gets you an additional 8 for
additional 8.
Yes. So if you took both of them right now, you would start with 12 coin.
You sit on 12 coin that you just have.
Right. It's part of your discretionary funds to complete this job. Yeah.
You can use it for bribes. You can do whatever you want with it.
All right. And we get 2 points to spend. So one of them could go to a fund.
We could spend that to just because here's the other thing. We don't get coin from doing work. Our characters are assumed to make the amount of money they need to, like they're spending their lifestyle.
Yeah.
So we don't make money unless we undertake other ways to make money.
Yeah, we don't generate any coin.
No. Now we can reach out to people to get coin, but that is not part of the payoff cycle for blue coats. There's no coin part.
And in case anyone at home is being like, well, what about just setting up extortion rackets, and what about all these ways in which cops can skim off the top? Yes, that is certainly an option, but if that is the primary method in which we're going to do things, again, we'd go back to we're playing Bravos. So it's not that you can't skim off the top. It's not that you can't set up an extortion racket. It's that that's not an intrinsic part of playing Blue Coats.
Now, what we can do, the Blue Coats can take Moonlighting as a special ability, which means you can trade a downtime activity for 1 coin. So that lets you have that space of like, oh, I do security work on the side or whatever.
Right.
To inject that money into the system. Otherwise, you're assumed to just like the original formation of the London policing organization. They made £1 a week, and there was this idea that they were like supposed to live this extremely like not ostentatious, the opposite of that, austere lifestyle, which didn't work out super well, but that was the idea.
Right.
Okay, so I have a pitch.
Okay.
Here. We have a thing that when we receive a fund, we get +1 coin. Does that mean that if we take the fund here, we get the 4 in the vault, and then
we would get 5?
Yeah,
5.
Yeah.
So at least one of our upgrades could go there because we'll get good value out of it.
Yeah,
that is true.
It's worth noting that there's the special crew upgrades, just in case in case they don't, the ones in gray above.
Having an Imperial Pardon is a thing to think about.
For two upgrades, you can have an Imperial Pardon.
We can have a blank Imperial Pardon that we can
get out of jail free card.
Use however we want.
Like we can pardon someone else. We can pardon ourselves.
Yeah, we can just have one.
Right. You can just make a problem go away once.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing. I don't know if we need that immediately though.
And then the other thing we could spend these 2 on is getting a new cohort, so we could have a gang of Blue Coats.
We could have a game. We could have an expert of some kind, like an alchemist or a doctor or something. We could have a cover. Cover operation doesn't fit our group really.
The other thing that doesn't fit, I would say, is a hidden lair, because we established that your lair is in the precinct. So that doesn't really.
Well, hidden could mean that we are ostensibly assigned to one thing, but we're actually doing something else.
That's true.
If we were doing an internal investigation or something, then being hidden, or having a cover operation could be good in that way.
They could say, oh, they're here to, they're infrastructure analysts checking the pipes. I feel like
that doesn't gel with our reputation.
I don't think so. No.
But
and then of course there's also. So what tier do you start at, John? What tier did these?
3.
So that's pretty good. It's pretty awesome to be.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
If you want real good stuff, stuff that rivals the Spirit Warden, stuff that rivals perhaps the nobles that are trying to hide things going on, you can get quality documents, quality gear, implements, all that jazz too. That's not super sexy to me, but it could be fitting.
It's not super sexy, but tier 4 documents is a pretty good thing to have. Honestly,
I like documents. Speaking as the investigative person on the team, documents are great.
We could take 1 in the fund and get 5 coin, and then 1 on something else, like tier 4 documents, if we wanted to go that route.
Yeah,
and documents would be used in play to do things like, I have your financial reports.
Exactly. You're tier 4 and you think I can't get your financials. I have them.
Yes.
Yeah. I requisition them.
A collection of slim volumes of a variety of topics, including a registry of nobility, city watch commanders, and other notable citizens. Is the base description of documents.
You can have like the thing that is locked at the registrar's office when you're tier 4. It's still public, but it's like,
I like the way documents and the first box and fun fit with the fiction of the mandate, where the Empire is like, fix the fuck out of this shit. Here are these resources.
Right.
Here's the stuff that's easy for us to just assign to you.
Right.
Or to so and so.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good point. Because we would definitely get like this factory has these 4 liens against it, and whatever it would be.
and not giving you a cohort. Cohorts are great, and I don't suggest that you never take it, but not giving you a cohort also fits with there's some ways in which this gesture is hugely ostentatious. To have Uset come and be here is this massive step, and also they're trying to keep it very contained. So it's at once like very public, but also like it's just the three of you.
Yeah, they don't assign a lot of people to it.
I could see them not wanting to give you a cohort because it's like, we need folks that are trusted, and the larger the circle gets, the harder it is to contain. Yeah. So not that you couldn't take it, but that would make sense to me as to why it's just the three of you.
I like the idea that down the line we might be like, we need more people. We need to start like taking houses or whatever to like root out this problem, and then we escalate to having a gang.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the way I'm reading it, John, there's no faction status that the characters are starting with, because all the things that would normally establish faction status are not part of mandate creation. Is that correct?
That should be a thing.
Yeah.
I didn't write special rules for it here, but on the physical character sheet, I actually forgot to add that on the Roll20 sheet.
It's okay. I can start putting it in. I've got the
physical sheet has the
it lists the Lord Governor, the City Council, the Leviathan Hunters, Ironhook Prison, the Spirit Wardens, the Bluecoats, the Inspectors, the Ink Rake, and the Citizenry.
Yes.
Hold on, I don't know if I'm putting anything in the right places. Yeah. And yes. So do you it makes sense to start off with some degree of faction status with these folks.
Yeah. So the way I see it is it's similar to the way the Scoundrels do it. So I think there are 3 faction setting phases for crews. So we will end up with 3 changes to faction status here. So let me just kind of improvise them in the moment. So first, I think it's the precinct. Given the precinct and the situation at hand, has someone given sort of a tacit space for us to operate? One of the powers that be here, we can decide which one. Have they tacitly given us space to act, and we've accepted their invitation to sort of work within their bounds for +1 status? Or did we rebuff them and say, this is a fucking Imperial mandate, we don't play favorites, we're taking -1 with you?
That would be the Dunvilles, right?
It would be the City Council. Yeah,
that would be the City Council. Yeah.
Yes. So would you like to accept the generosity of the City Council in that, with the understanding that you are in fact their lackeys? Not that they would ever use such crass terms, but
no.
Or would you like to rebuff them and say, no, I don't work for any one noble family, I work for the Empire, and piss them off?
I feel like this is largely at Uset's feet.
Yeah.
Like Dunville, Anixis, neither, both. Like where do you stand on those loyalties?
Yeah, I think Uset is smart enough to not say no to that, because you can always say you're sorry later.
You can just lie.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm not supposed to lie. I'm an inspector. Damn it.
Yeah. So I think that I do think there's a cost to Uset to say yes to it, which is
what does that cost look like before I commit?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right. I think the cost is your reputation amongst the inspectors, right? Like
that goes down.
I think that's a fair trade. -1 inspectors, +1 City Council.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I think it's the other way around. I think you're going to choose one or the other. You're either like, yep, you're doing the job right, the inspectors respect you, or and you've pissed off City Council, or vice
But Sean, the
versa.
city council is a tier 5 organization. The inspectors are only a tier 3.
I know, and the inspectors aren't even nearby.
This isn't fair.
Oh no.
No, it's totally not fair.
Um,
I mean, the inspectors are people that you know and possibly care about. They definitely are, people you have personal connections with, or at least professional connections with. Maybe not personal. I'm not sure how personal you get.
I think she's stonewalled city council on this one.
Okay.
All right.
So you're at -1 with city council and +1 with the inspectors. Did your job.
Okay. So the next trade-off is that's the mandate. So then there's the precinct. And I think this is the split between the bluecoats and the citizenry.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So as the bluecoats, Janice and Talk, go out into the community to serve the mandate, are we going out in a community outreach stance where we're like, hey, look, things are crazy around here right now, but we got you. Like, we're here for you. You don't need to worry about this. We're going to try to make things work out, or however we want to play that. But we're definitely like on the side of the people here.
We're like, hey, you know me. I'm so-and-so.
Yeah.
Like, we go way back. It's cool.
And
we're bluecoats, but the reason the bluecoats exist is to serve the people. So that's what we're here for. Or are we going to our boss and going, look, boss, this mandate stuff is a bunch of imperial bullshit, but trust me, like, don't worry about it. We're going to make sure that the bluecoats come out okay.
Yeah. Who comes out okay is a very real question in this debacle. It's very possible that this problem could be solved and still screw over somebody very hard, right?
Pretty much everybody, arguably.
Yeah. The bluecoats are in no way insulated from getting totally hosed by this and losing funding and getting demotions and all kinds of other, like their own status is definitely on the line, because it's
the factory owners.
Job.
We can impose martial law, and you have to produce for the good of the empire at a loss, like, or whatever. Like there's all kinds of ways for that to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Personally,
it's bigger than Dunville, right? Like, he's the face of it, of this nobility, but the Leviathans are the empire.
Given Talk, I think citizenry, but I think Janice is a more complicated character, and
I think true to the brand, Janice is fucked either way.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but citizenry is where my obligation is and what I actually care about.
Okay.
Because I'm burned out on the job anyway.
All right. So we're going to take +1 with citizenry and -1 with bluecoats. So you continue to trade lower tier factions status for higher tier faction negative status.
Negative with bluecoats is painful.
I'm liking this trend.
It's painful.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, Talk doesn't fit in.
No, it is 100% what we should do. 100%.
Nobody likes Uset.
Yeah.
And to me, the next one at stake is how you're seen by the people who are outside the law. And so are you seen as bribable, perhaps seen are you seen as bribable,
right?
Or perhaps even
as soon as we arrive, all of the criminal organizations need to take the temperature here. Like, is this going to be a problem for us? Are these people going to play ball?
Right.
There's a fucking inspector here. They're not going to play ball.
Right.
So
it's between it's local vigilantes and local criminals.
Exactly. To me, it's between the Lost and the Lampblacks.
Yep.
We haven't brought the Lampblacks in yet, but they're definitely in Coleridge, and
100%.
If you are playing ball, Lampblacks are like, cool. We totally know this game. We're more than happy to be of service to you, officer. Right? You know, they'll totally play ball with you, and it's not even being facetious. Like, it's a business arrangement.
Yeah.
Or you're not taking bribes, in which case you gain a measure of respect from the Lost, despite the fact that their leader, Cortland, doesn't personally respect or has issues with Janice.
They can hate each other, and there can be respect there too, right? Okay.
Exactly. Yes. So you can have hate and respect if you want from the Lost, as long as you're willing to have the Lamplax know that you're not playing ball.
Setting the rod that is up the inspector's ass aside, I am totally fine with playing ball with the Lamplax and smoothing things over there. That's how I would play it.
I think that's what Janice would do too, grudgingly, but
she's all about keeping
she's
her
not
head
stupid.
down. Yeah.
The Lost can kind of go fuck themselves personally. Like, I don't really care about them. They're a huge problem.
They're a huge problem, and they're easily the easiest scapegoats in all of this. They're easily the ones you just be like, "That's your problem. Arrest all those people."
I am totally on board with that.
and I think anyone will know that won't solve the problem, but it's a really pretty Band-Aid, or it's a really pretty first move, perhaps. And I think they know that. They totally read that that's what you're going to target them, because they're the obvious ones. So when you're at -1 faction status with someone, because let's pull up this faction statuses. Folks will impede you if it does not require them to go out of their way or put themselves at risk. And they expect you to do the same of them. And when you're +1 faction status, folks will aid you when it does not cost them overly or put them at risk, and they expect you to do the same for them. So the Lost are not like fully, full-fledged putting war out against you, but they're definitely going to hamper your efforts wherever they can. It doesn't endanger them.
Yeah, but say that -1 again about the blue coats. That's the one.
Yeah, there you go.
They're not going to help us.
They're going to impede.
They're going to impede us everywhere they can that doesn't hurt them.
Right. Every bit of paperwork you need to have filed through the system is always going to go on the long stack. It's always going to take forever and get misfiled. And
that makes so much sense, because the commander of the watch is like, fuck this inspector bullshit.
The commander of the watch hates me.
Yes. Right. So
none of us have. Oh, you have one testify, Andrew. That's something, I guess.
So there's all these ways in which you can like skip over the blue coats, but every time you do that, you're just going to make things with them worse. Like, you can totally just be like, yeah, I'm going right to the magistrate. I'm going to take this evidence I found, and that's fine, and it'll work. But
Sean,
yes,
can I rewind on mine?
Of course,
and switch.
Yeah. What do you want to switch?
I want to say yes to the city council and be like, oh yeah, no, we're here to help you. Like, okay. I think she'll have done it a little bit naively, or at least appear like, I don't know. It's kind of like muddy as to what her deal is, but
-1 with the inspectors.
Yeah, the inspectors are going to notice and think it's bad.
I mean, now you're making smart decisions.
Because I'm just gonna fuck over the city council super hard, but they're gonna think I'm their friend, at least at first. That's my plan. I was like, it's no fun coming out the gate straight up. You have to get there.
You have to catch them by surprise.
Yeah.
So the people who don't have any particular opinion of you is the Lord Governor, which makes sense. You're not, it's not that this is beneath them at all, but they're just like, oh, cool, someone's been assigned to the job. You're not their problem, at least not right now. The Leviathan hunters, like, I think it's very likely that you would quickly get on their radar for good or ill, but at the moment they're not. And the Spirit Warrens and Iron Hook. Oh, and the Ink Rakes.
Yeah. We're not getting slagged in the media. We haven't killed anyone yet.
Yeah.
And
you're not preventing people from going. Iron Hook is a charnel house. It needs bodies.
Right.
So if you deprive it of its bodies that it needs, it will be a problem. But at the moment, there's no indication that you're going to stop due process and prevent people from being locked up and going there.
I gotta say, I thank you for biting the bullet on that one, Andrew.
Yeah, I think it's more interesting this way.
It's good for the unit, and it's interesting for your character. So
yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah,
that's fun.
I think it's fun because it seems to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that you respect the institution of the inspectors?
Yeah, but I've managed to piss them off still.
Yeah. Right. No, I mean that's
because cool. And like as far as she's concerned, this is the best way to get the job done.
Right. You can explain it later, right?
Yeah.
It also makes sense because, as we said, you're the tip of the spear.
And yeah, I'm a political entity.
Who let this fucking Aruvian in the inspectors?
Yeah.
Now, what we haven't changed yet is we have our neutral status with the ink rakes, who are going to start publishing stories about what's going on.
Yeah, and right. And they love scandal, right? Like they love, I mean, as is evidenced by current media, everybody loves a fucking shitstorm to jump on top of.
Well, and they're a useful tool in all of this.
Using them for leverage is a really smart play here. So it's something to think about. There's a lot of other things to balance, but they're a big factor.
Yeah.
I am excited to kick this hornet's nest.
Yeah. I think appeasing the Leviathan hunters by ensuring them some measure of stability may not directly impact you here immediately, but means lots of potential for growth in the future. And I mean, of course, it will have, eventually it will have impact in the setting as well. But like, I think they're good friends to have. Leviathan hunters are.
They're rich as shit.
They're rich as shit.
That is true.
So
if I want to fill this other fund out, I gotta make some friends.
Right. I mean, we've done all the crew stuff, so I think we're ready to go we can kick off our next game.
We have do you want to talk about the clocks, or do you want to save that for next time?
Oh, right. Thank you. Yes. I was like, what am I missing? So yeah, let's tell us a little bit about how these clocks work.
So there are 4 local status clocks, which are in the book. Each of the districts has these 4 categories that kind of rate them in different things: wealth, criminal influence, safety and security, and occult influence. So you can, and they're rated on 1 to 4 scale. You can think of those as clocks, 4 clocks, basically. As a district's wealth goes up, obviously things change. Criminal influence, safety, occult, all that stuff moves around based on what happens. And in the book, they're just presented as these static features of a district, because generally the scoundrels are just treating those things as obstacles or opportunities for their crimes. But because we're on the side of the institutional stuff, we have to kind of care to some degree about how the events in the district are moving these things around. Particularly with our mandate, wealth is very important. That does need to go down. Coleridge only has 1 dot of wealth right now, so losing that entirely would be super bad. So those are the kind of trackers, and then there are 2 clocks for each of those statuses. It's like a tug of war type thing. One of the clocks makes the stat go up, makes wealth go up, for instance, or makes it go down. And in the case of wealth, the clock that makes wealth go down is called disruption to industry or wealth generation. And that's a 4 clock. When that fills up, wealth goes down. To get wealth to go up, you need stability, and stability is an 8 clock that you have to fill to get to wealth to go up. So it's very hard to fill and rise, and it's easier for it to fall apart. So the idea behind these clocks is that maintaining the status quo is actually a fairly reasonable objective. Trying to make things better is very difficult, and things being ruined is really easy. So just kind of like putting the brakes on and being like, let's just leave it the way it is a kind of a smart approach. And so for the rest of them, criminal influence, more peace causes criminal influence to go down, but that's an 8 clock that you have to fill. And strife in the district causes criminal influence to go up, and that's only a 4 clock for that to go up. So it's easy for criminal influence to rise if there's a lot of strife happening. Then you have safety and security. Freedom causes safety and security to go down. The more freedom people have, that's a 4 o'clock. And then suppression is the thing that improves safety and security.
What a grim picture this
and then occult influence, purity causes that to go down. It's an 8 o'clock. And then corruption, a 4 o'clock, causes that to rise. Currently in Coleridge, there's no occult influence. It's like a sort of not a factor right now. So we'll see how that goes. Safety and security is at a 1. Criminal influence is at a 1. And wealth is at a 1. Given the starting situation that Sean created, I went ahead and filled in some of these clocks. Disruption has already been filled, which will cause wealth to go down because the factory stoppages are occurring. Strife is going up, which will cause criminal influence to rise. That's already been affected. And suppression has risen, which will help safety and security. And that's as a result of like the blue coats like backlashing against the situation. So
right.
In the same way that scoundrels tend to have fallout that sort of all comes rolling back onto them and the crew and their own organization, the stuff we do will tend to sort of roll outward and move all these things around and cause the district's situation to change. So we're in service of this higher mandate to get a job done, but every step we take on that process to do it is going to shift the local situation around and cause different changes to happen. And we as players, as characters, have to decide how much we care about that. But it's always going to be a factor.
Because there's very much the possibility of getting the job done and failing miserably at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. Like, cool, we succeeded in the mandate and we left the district in flames.
or vice versa. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yep.
Well, I'm excited to see how this goes. There's so many threads to pull on from your character's background. We built the characters in the setting, which is great because all of the issues that we made part of the setting are already present in them. So,
yeah, I'm really excited to see where that goes. I feel like we have a lot of material. We sort of indulged ourselves a little bit and sprawled out to fill the space, the time we had.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with that. It was fun to do. So
we should talk a little bit about the warrant and the way it looks right as it is right now.
I can run through that briefly if you want to show it on screen, Sean. I can.
It's on screen. Yeah.
Explain it real quick.
Yeah.
This is a little strange because I couldn't change this about the sheet. The top row of the claims grid, so to speak here. The top row, sort of ignore the top row for a moment. I know that's hard to do, but just like pretend that it isn't there. I'll talk about that at the end. Essentially, the problem with the layout that I couldn't fix was everything is upside down. Because of the way the layout is, I couldn't change that fact, and I had to kind of kludge it together. So ignore the top row for a moment. So the 4 rows below that represent the space of the warrant that we're serving. In the same way that a scoundrel crew has their lair and then all the associated claims around it. This one starts in the top row because you're ignoring the actual top row here. The top row says warrant. That's where we begin. We have a warrant to resolve the work stoppage in Coleridge and resume production to meet quotas. Then we can go to the left or the right from that warrant. If we go left, we're going to pursue witnesses and evidence to try to progress the mandate. If we go right, we're going to try to capture a cohort involved in the problem, a person, a gang, etc., in order to further the warrant. So it's sort of 2 styles of doing stuff, essentially. Like, do we go after witnesses and evidence and a legislative kind of approach, or do we go after people and capturing people, getting them to talk, turning them, arresting them, charging them with crimes, getting plea bargains, whatever. And as we progress through this little matrix of boxes, our characters can build this case. And so there's no place to put this on the sheet currently, but every row that we complete fully adds to an ongoing power of the case that we're developing. So the first one is actually worth 0 because fuck you. The second row is worth 1 die. The third row is worth 2 more dice, so 3 total. And the last row is worth 3 dice more, so 6 total dice for the case. So what we want to do is try to get as many witnesses and evidence as we can, try to capture and arrest and plea or jail as many leaders and cohorts as we can, and go from row to row to row all the way up to the central boss as we've identified it in the mandate. And part of the deal here is at the beginning, we don't necessarily know who to target in order to do that. So we can look at the top row now. You're allowed to not stop ignoring that now. The top row shows 2 different cases where there's like a 3-box little job and a 2-box job. The 3-box job is a lead, an arrest, and a conviction. And the 2-box job is a lead and a witness or evidence. So whenever we're in that position as the mandate where we're like, what we need to do is identify the leader to move this along. There's a lieutenant type person here, a factory owner, someone in the resistance, a union organizer. We need to identify that person and get a hold of them. We can pursue a lead, find a witness, get evidence, get that person, check off that box, and move forward. So everything is very goal and task oriented and not mystery oriented. That's the point of all of these boxes is we're not like who done it, who's behind everything. I don't know. If we don't know, we do a thing to find out, and then we know, and then we go and we get that person. And we just continue that process of discovery, action, and discovery and action until we either get swamped and defeated and are destroyed by heat and pressure institutionally, or we're all killed or whatever, or we finish our case and try to like move things legislatively. Because if we finish everything, we can push it through the magistrate side and be like, look, we got 6 case dice. We got Andrew's characters testify.
Yeah.
We're just going to we're going to roll the dice and hope for the best and try to finish this in the courts. We can go that route if we want to, or we can just like kill all these people, like get them off the board or throw them in prison or whatever. So every little tick box is that thing dealt with, and we decide how we deal with that as we go through the process. If we disappear them, if we get a plea bargain, if we frame them with falsified evidence, whatever it is. But we have this clear roadmap that shows us how we're progressing through the process. That's the idea anyway. I hope that makes sense. It's a little bit janky in the current Roll20 sheet, but
we'll work with it, figure it out.
Yeah. Did that make sense? But I feel like I was just kind of giving you a lot of information there, but hopefully.
You're muted.
I'm muted?
No,
not just muted.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, there were motorcycles. I feel like having hands-on experience with it will make it make more sense, as is always the case for me. But I have a good groundwork now. Thank you.
Yeah,
I think it's solid. And the nice thing is, right off the bat, like, let's either go for warrant or evidence or a cohort, right? Like it's arrest somebody and turn them, or let's get some dirt. And
yeah, do we round up the usual suspects, or do we go to the like scene of the crime and look for clues?
Right.
Yep. That's the idea.
Cool.
Well, I would love to do all of those things. So
all right, cool. All right, so let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll
do another 4 hours.
Another 4 hours.
One of us has to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Okay. This was super fun. I'm really excited about where this is going to go. I have doing everything I can to not like think this out too far. I know some of the things going on. I don't know all the things going on. It's not my job to know all the things going on. I firmly believe. So I'm gonna figure out where.
No, that's a really good point, Sean. This just like Blade Scoundrels, like it's on us as players to be like, this is what we want to pursue next, and this is the target we're going to go after, and we really have to be proactive. It's not just GM,
what's the lead?
Give us everything. Yeah.
Cool, awesome. Let's fade to black. Let's all we should probably, no, we don't have to. We're gonna say goodnight because this might go up on YouTube or something like that. But you know who we are. Our names are here.
It's all good.
It is.
Thanks for watching. If you did watch this,
if this was a thing that was watched, thanks so much.